Chapter 13:17. Spring passed and autumn arrived. Cultivation on the Devil Mountain was timeless. It was unknown when Huang Shatian and the others had already silently left the mountain. When Qin Wentian's alliance discovered this, Huang Shatian and the others had already retreated. Most probably, the people of Huang Shatian's alliance understood that if they waited for Qin Wentian to leave the mountain together, they would have no chance to win against Qin Wentian. On this mountain, the judiciary priestess Bai Qing and the monk Bujie seemed to be standing on Qin Wentian's side. After leaving the mountain, Huang Shatian and the others would definitely think of other methods to ambush Qin Wentian and the others when they exited the myriad Devil Islands. After all, other than the 100 participants of the adjudication battle, Huang Shatian's alliance had many other experts as well. In terms of numbers, they had the advantage. As long as everyone gathered together, their chances would still be very high. Naturally, Qin Wentian didn't feel that they could rely on themselves to win this battle. One mustn't forget that the adjudication battle could be won using any methods, and Qin Wentian had already made his preparations since a long time ago. As the 10 years passed, Qin Wentian's cultivation base grew deeper and deeper. He who was already at the peak stage of Immortal Foundation, his next goal was the Immortal King realm. Hence, there wouldn't be any more obvious breakthroughs. But at his current level, his comprehension of law energy grew more and more important. Such improvements would only be manifested during combat and wouldn't be visible during normal times. Wentian Gige, are you really going to leave? In the Judiciary Devil Hall, Bai Qing stared at Qin Wentian, feeling some reluctance in her heart. As a devil cultivator and a priestess of the Judiciary Devil Hall, it was impossible for her to leave the Devil Mountain and head to the Immortal Realms. After Qin Wentian left, she didn't know when they would meet again. The 10-year deadline for the adjudication battle is almost up. This battle has to come to an end eventually. However, now that I have the freedom to enter and leave the Devil Mountain, if there's a chance in the future, I can always come to the myriad Devil Islands to visit you again. Qin Wentian rubbed Bai Qing's head as he smiled. Of course, little Qing has to cultivate properly as well. Once you step foot into the Devil King realm, it'll naturally be more convenient for you to travel between the Immortal and Devil realms. Qing seriously nodded her head as a strange light flashed in her eyes. Okay, Qing will definitely work hard in her cultivation. But now, I have to personally send Wentian Gige to the Immortal realms. Since this battle concerns the marriage between Wentian Gige and Sis Qing, and it's happening in the myriad Devil Islands, I naturally have to do my best. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. He naturally understood Bai Qing's meaning. It's just that if we use the power of the Judiciary Devil Hall. Don't worry. Wentian Gige, you should have seen the attitude of the Judiciary Devil Hall towards you during these years. Don't forget our conjectures. Bai Qing smiled. Back then, that existence also said that as long as we descend the Devil Mountain, the Devil Halls on the Devil Mountain are not allowed to interfere in the battle between us. Qin Wentian frowned. We won't participate in the battle. I'm only going there to send Wentian Gige off. Naturally, if there are other devil cultivators who dare to help the other party, hee. Bai Qing giggled. Qin Wentian instantly understood what she meant. This little lass. Okay then, I will gather everyone and set off now. Qin Wentian nodded. During these years, there were quite a few allies who ascended the Devil Mountain, but there were only around 50 plus of them. As for the other experts scattered around the myriad Devil Islands, as long as they didn't die and weren't on the Devil Mountain, there was a high possibility that they would head to the exit by themselves. If this was the case, he had to head there earlier to avoid being hunted by Huang Shatian and the others. Qin Wentian gathered all the cultivators on the Devil Mountain together. Everyone naturally understood what Qin Wentian wanted to do. The deadline of 10 years was nearing. It was time for them to return to the Immortal Realms. At the foot of the Devil Mountain, there are still a few friends waiting for me. Let's head to the vast Sky Devil Island first before heading to the Devil Gate leading to the Immortal Realms. Qin Wentian spoke. In this alliance, Qin Wentian was the core character. This adjudication battle also revolved around him, and in addition to the fact that his strength was already the strongest in the alliance, everyone naturally listened to him. A group of experts, in addition to an army from the Judiciary Devil Hall, set off from the Devil Mountain just like that. Bujia came to send them off. He temporarily had no plans to leave. There were still some peak geniuses from other immortal realms on the Devil Mountain. They also had no intentions of leaving. In this sacred ground of the myriad Devil Islands, there were many secret realms for cultivation. Although they cultivated immortality and not the devil, immortality and devil were interlinked. This would be of great help to their future path. On the vast Sky Devil Island in the vast Sky Devil region, in the Emperor Palace, the vast Sky Devil Emperor stood there, staring at a group of experts heading over as his eyes gleamed sharply. Beside him, his daughter was there as well. When she saw the young man who borrowed her daughter to meet the vast Sky Devil Emperor, her heart trembled slightly. Her father said that the army ahead came from the Devil Mountain. Now, they were here to protect Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyin was simply a monster. Devil Emperor. The subordinates of the vast Sky Devil Emperor who sent Qin Wenyin to the Devil Mountain bowed. Qin Wenyin smiled. Senior Devil Emperor, Qin Wenyin is here for the appointment. And, Qin Wenyin, you are truly a fellow who creates miracles. The Devil Emperor laughed, staring at Bai Qing who was beside him. Right now, Bai Qing was fully clad in armor, exuding an incomparably cold aura. Most probably, they are from the Judiciary Devil Hall of the Devil Mountain. Back then, Yulong Shengtu of the Imperial Dragon Devil Hall arrived and was incomparably tyrannical. As for the Judiciary Devil Hall, they were even more ancient and powerful compared to the Imperial Dragon Devil Hall. Their status on the Devil Mountain was also a level higher. This is the priestess of the Judiciary Devil Hall. A devil king at the side spoke. The priestess is truly dazzling. Since the Judiciary Devil Hall has come, I will get people to prepare a banquet. Senior, there's no need to trouble yourself. I'm in a rush and will head to the Fallen Devil region immediately. Qin Wenyin smiled. Might as well. The vast Sky Devil Emperor nodded. In that case, let's move out directly to the teleportation array and head to the Fallen Devil Island first. It would be faster. Sure. Qin Wenyin nodded. The group of them directly headed out. The daughter of the vast Sky Devil Emperor didn't follow them. Staring at the departing figures, a myriad of emotions flashed through her heart. An immortal realm expert, Wu Xiu, came to the myriad Devil Islands for the first time. From the time he participated in the birthday banquet of the fallen Devil Emperor to the peak of the Devil Mountain and finally led the troops of the Judiciary Devil Hall out, he only used a few short years. The radiance of some people was destined to be unconcealable. No matter where they went, they would radiate boundless light. She also faintly felt some admiration for her father. Back then, her father told her that since she chose to agree to Qin Wentian's request, she should be straightforward and not do things that would make Qin Wentian unhappy. It would be meaningless if she did that. Now, from the looks of it, her father was extremely wise, being able to lead the troops of the Judiciary Devil Hall down the Devil Mountain. Even if Qin Wentian broke his promise, there was nothing they could do. The vast Sky Devil Emperor's palace caused a huge commotion. Numerous experts floated in the air, all of them were incomparably shocked in their hearts. After the vast Sky Devil Island, it was the fallen Devil Island's turn to be shocked. When the troops of the Judiciary Devil Hall passed by, it was similar to the time when Yulong Shengtu led the Imperial Dragon Army here, causing a terrifying hurricane. After the fallen Devil Emperor discovered this, he personally came here, and when he saw the silhouette of Qin Wentian, he didn't know what to think in his heart. Since the members of the Judiciary Devil Hall are here, do you need to rest in the Emperor Palace? The fallen Devil Emperor asked. No need. If you are sincere, you can come with us. But if you don't, forget it. Bai Qing's voice was cold as she spoke. Before Qin Wentian, this priestess was like a young girl. Even when facing a Devil Emperor, she still exuded a sense of coldness and imposingness. The eyes of the fallen Devil Emperor flashed. After a moment of silence, he nodded. If priestess has any needs, feel free to speak. As a Devil Emperor, even if Bai Qing was a priestess, she had no authority to directly order him to do things. However, the status of the priestess of the Judiciary Devil Hall was even stronger compared to Yulong Shengtu. In the future, if she became a grand priestess, her authority would be towering up into the heavens. Who would dare to disobey her? Although Bai Qing said that it was fine if he didn't agree, Qin Wenyan was already very unhappy with him and even brought the vast Sky Devil Emperor here. If he missed this chance again, who knew if Qin Wenyan and the people of the Judiciary Devil Hall would hate him out of jealousy? Hence, after some consideration, he decided to make a trip there. Since this is the case, many thanks to Senior Devil Emperor. Qin Wenyan smiled. With 2 Devil Emperors assisting him, there shouldn't be any suspense in this adjudication battle. Even if Huang Shatian brought Devil Emperors with him, with the experts of the Judiciary Devil Hall present, who would dare to interfere? Old Xia's death wasn't unjust. The fallen Devil Emperor sighed in his heart. Back then, the old Xia Devil King chose Huang Shatian to bully Qin Wenyan because Qin Wenyan was merely a junior. Without authority, it was useless no matter how high one's talent was. But in just a short few years, Qin Wenyan was already able to lead the Judiciary Devil Army down from the Devil Mountain. Old Xia was destined to face this calamity. I will have to trouble Senior to lead the way to the Devil Gate leading to the Immortal Realms. Qin Wenyan spoke. The fallen Devil Emperor nodded. Let us move out now. As he spoke, he led the way. Before Qin Wenyan left, he glanced at the horizon. Over there was the direction of the Celestial Devil Lodge. Sighing silently in his heart, he turned and left this place. 2 Devil Emperors as well as an army of the Devil Path. Everywhere they passed by, huge waves of commotion arose on the fallen Devil Island. The rumors regarding Qin Wenyan once again circulated around the entire island at an astonishing speed. Back then, Qin Wenyan participated in the birthday banquet of the Devil Emperor and radiated boundless radiance. However, he was excluded from the top 3 rankers by the old Xia Devil King due to his selfishness. Qin Wenyan rejected the reward from the Devil Emperor and left in a fit of anger. The 3 Devil Kings pursued him, but they were all killed by Qin Wenyan. After that, Qin Wenyan led the vast Sky Devil Emperor's army back and killed the old Xia Devil King, standing against the fallen Devil Emperor, shocking the entire island. But now, when he returned, not only did he bring the vast Sky Devil Emperor with him, he also brought the Judiciary Army of the Devil Mountain with him. The Judiciary Army that caused the 10,000 devils to weep. Even the fallen Devil Emperor had no choice but to submit, leading the way for Qin Wenyan. What a hot-blooded story this was, causing the hearts of countless youths to be filled with fervor. In the Celestial Devil Lodge, 2 females stood together. One of them had tears in her eyes. He returned in such an inconceivable manner, even the fallen Devil Emperor had to compromise for him. Such a person truly radiated boundless radiance. The Lodge Lord of the Celestial Devil Lodge glanced at the delicate and beautiful woman beside her as she sighed in her heart. At the same time, she was incomparably shocked. Back then, Xenu once said that one day when he sat on the throne in the starry space, the women around him would definitely be the focus of attention. As for her, she wasn't worthy. Now, that young man was actually walking step by step towards his throne. Chapter 13:18. What a sinister fellow! An expert from the alliance beside Qin Wenyan coldly spoke. The fluctuations grew more and more intense. In this incomparably gigantic Devil Gate, many parts of it could be seen. After that, numerous figures stepped out from the void, directly moving towards the gate. Intense fluctuations gradually spread out from the Devil Gate. Everyone held their breaths. Even the people on the side of the Sky Mist Immortal Emperor, who were filled with confidence, were extremely nervous. This tempering exercise would definitely allow Huang Shatian to return in an even stronger state. Today was the last day. If no one stepped out today, there would be no conclusion to the adjudication battle. If that was the case, who would be the victor and who would be the loser? 10 years in the Myriad Devil Islands, I wonder what level Shatian is at now. Most probably, he is getting closer and closer to the Immortal King realm. An immortal emperor from the 9 emperors' immortal state laughed, as though he had absolute confidence in Huang Shatian. A true supreme genius would be able to survive even in the most dangerous environment. Hence, even if Huang Shatian and the others entered the myriad Devil Islands, he still believed that to Huang Shatian, this was merely an opportunity. 10 years, to immortal emperors, was simply too short. In the blink of an eye, many conflicts occurred in these 10 years. The experts from both sides didn't allow any immortal kings from the immortal realms to enter the Devil Gate. Even for immortal kings they didn't know, they were also forbidden from entering. This was all for the sake of preventing the people of the other side from entering. It could be said that both sides were in a state of mutual hostility. On this day, even those of the younger generation arrived one after another. For example, Qing. She also came here to follow by her father's side. It was naturally impossible for them to exit the Devil Gate. Back then when they entered the myriad Devil Islands, they had already made an agreement that if anyone entered before them, they would be killed without mercy. They could only exit within 3 months after the deadline of 10 years. The adjudication light slashed down, killing all the guards in disguise. Qin Wentian's expression was cold. Their movements had already been discovered. Even the Devil Emperor's devil sense had no way to locate them. Clearly, Huang Shatian wanted to be on guard and was monitoring them from afar. In that case, it was very possible that they wouldn't show themselves. In this way, he had missed another chance to kill them. The fallen Devil Emperor waved his hand as an illusory palm imprint directly grabbed the person who spoke, seizing his devil spear. Qin Wentian glanced at Bai Qing, feeling somewhat puzzled. Surround them. At this moment, Bai Qing suddenly spoke in a cold voice. After that, the experts from the Judiciary Devil Hall rushed out, surrounding the guards. The guards all grew even more nervous as they stared at these newcomers with fear in their eyes. Now, the deadline of 10 years had finally arrived. The battle at the foot of the demonic mountains seemed to have decided this 10-year battle. The Devil Gate of the myriad Devil Islands has no guards at all. The commotion here can be seen from the Devil Mountain. Bai Qing spoke in a low voice. Qin Wentian's eyes flickered with a cold light as he stared at the group of guards. Since Bai Qing said so, it was obvious that these people were disguised as guards and were here to monitor the situation. Who told you guys to come here? Bai Qing stepped out, her voice cold. Many experts from the other side of the Devil Gate, including many immortal emperors, have already arrived. They were also waiting, and the experts from the Sky Mist Alliance were filled with confidence. However, as time flowed by, the deadline of 10 years has already arrived. The buffer period of 3 months was getting closer and closer, but there was still no one who managed to exit. This caused both sides to be extremely nervous. They couldn't see through the ending, causing everyone to feel suffocated. At this moment, a vast devil might gushed over from afar. Not long after, an army of devil cultivators could be seen rushing over, exuding a fearsome might. The guards at the entrance of the Devil Gate all frowned, their hands involuntarily trembled as they stared at the incoming experts. Could it be that both sides had no way to exit the myriad Devil Islands in time? The 10-year deadline of the adjudication battle actually arrived under such an inconceivable atmosphere. When this day arrived, the gazes of many turned to Qin Wentian. These people were none other than Qin Wentian and his allies. After arriving, Qin Wentian swept his gaze over. There was no one from Huang Shatian and his allies. There was no one from his side as well. The days got closer and closer, more and more experts arrived. Jun Mingchen also came here, preparing to welcome Qin Wentian back. During these 10 years, he had roamed many places in the immortal realms and improved tremendously. But he didn't forget the promise he made with Qin Wentian. We came here on our own, wanting to extort some benefits. Hence, they continued to wait quietly. And as expected, during this period of time, several experts from their alliance gathered here. When they saw the lineup of Qin Wentian and his allies, their hearts were filled with shock. At this instant, a light fluctuation instantly caused countless gazes to land on the Devil Gate. Nervousness, anxiety, anticipation. A crisp cracking sound rang out as the Devil's spear shattered. The tiny mirror at the tip of the spear floated there, faintly imprinting the scene in this space. Kill them. Qin Wentian coldly spoke. The eyes of those people flashed. One of them replied, "No." "Before this, did anyone fight here before?" Qin Wentian asked. Such a situation shouldn't be possible. It was impossible for there to be no one here. But as the 3-month deadline approached, they faintly felt that this wasn't something impossible. Time truly passes by quickly. Evergreen, in a few more days, your daughter Qing'er and the daughter of the White Emperor, Stained Glass, would be married into my Sky Mist immortal empire. At that time, we would be in-laws and we would be able to sit together, drink tea and chat. The Sky Mist immortal emperor laughed. Chongqing the Great glanced at him and directly ignored his words. As the 10-year deadline approached, the Devil Gate of the Myriad Devil Islands, in a corner of the immortal realms, many experts gathered here. In fact, there were even several immortal emperors here. They were patrolling in front of the Devil Gate, as though they were guards protecting it. "Kill." An austere voice rang out. Those people turned pale. They didn't expect that they would offend such a terrifying enemy and lose their lives for this mission. No wonder the rewards for this seemingly simple mission were so generous. "Let's wait for the 10-year deadline to be up." Qin Wentian calmly spoke. The group of them set up camp here and time flowed by bit by bit. Initially, they thought that a decisive battle would occur before they exited this place. But the truth was that at the very last moment, the decisive battle didn't arrive. "Huang Shengeng." Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with coldness. Qin Wentian had long planned and agreed to the vast Sky Devil Emperor's request. But at the same time, the vast Sky Devil Emperor would act as his protector and with Bai Qing's help, the situation was already set. However, Huang Shengeng also had his own methods. He descended the Devil Mountain in advance and actually had people stationed outside the Devil Gate. In this case, their actions should have already been discovered by the vast Sky Devil Emperor. On the other side of the Devil Gate was the Myriad Devil Islands. In front of the Devil Gate, there were quite a few devil cultivators roaming about. They were clad in armor and wielded devil spears in their hands. At the point where the spear tip connected to the spear shaft, there was actually a tiny mirror that shone with a dazzling light. Huang Shatian and the others didn't appear at all. When the 2 devil emperors and experts from the Judiciary Devil Hall appeared, Huang Shatian already understood that the adjudication battle has already ended. There was no way to reverse the situation. "Kill them," Bai Qing commanded. "Seniors, we juniors will leave immediately." Those devil cultivators trembled as they spoke. "Yes, priestess." The experts from the Judiciary Devil Hall replied. In an instant, a destructive light flashed, causing those devil cultivators to feel terror in their hearts. They directly knelt and begged, "Spare us, there's someone who ordered us to stand guard here. There's no need for us to do anything." The adjudication battle for the promise of 10 years this time around was between Qin Wentian and Huang Shatian. But in truth, the truth behind this adjudication battle wasn't so simple. It was a competition between the peak powers of the immortal realms. If they won this battle, they would have already achieved their initial goal. It's just that it was a pity for those devil cultivators who died in the Myriad Devil Islands. Because her cultivation base was lower, although she came here to send Qin Wentian off, she didn't enter the Myriad Devil Islands. 10 years ago, those who entered the Myriad Devil Islands to participate in the adjudication battle were all at the peak level of Immortal Foundation. Also, the vast majority of them had already broken through and comprehended a trace of Immortal King might. The area outside the Devil Gate was extremely quiet. The presence of this army caused the experts of the Myriad Devil Islands to not even dare to step out. Nobody knew what this army was doing and no one dared to ask them. This is a treasure. As long as the owner instills his energy into it, he would be able to monitor the situation here from afar. The vast Sky Devil Emperor spoke. Tenlon Heaven Kingdom, Evergreen Kingdom, ZD, GD, the Supreme Sword School, the 9 Emperors Immortal State, the Celestial Palace, the Taihua Immortal Dynasty, the Dongshengshan Gate, the White Tiger People, the Namhuang Clan, the Immortal Qianbian Gate. Which of these powers wouldn't be able to dominate an entire region? The leaders of these powers were all immortal emperors, and there were even peak-stage immortal emperors among them. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with Buddhic light, able to see through all lies. He could sense the lies of the other party as his expression turned even colder. If there was a battle here, it would mean that his allies had arrived long ago and were ambushed. His allies wouldn't have thought that these guards were here to monitor the situation here. But luckily, there's no longer any suspense in this adjudication battle. Duan Qingshan spoke. Qin Wenyin nodded his head lightly. Although it was a pity that they didn't manage to kill Huang Shatian and the others, their main purpose for coming here was still the adjudication battle. Let's wait for the 3-month buffer period to end before we exit. Maybe during these 3 months, our allies would come here. In addition, even if we exit, we have to guard against Huang Shatian and the others. If not, all our previous efforts might go to waste. Qin Wendian spoke as everyone agreed. At this moment, everyone was staring at the Devil Gate, anxiously waiting. Even if only one person walked out, victory or defeat would be determined. Chapter 1319. More than 10 places on the Devil Gate started to tremble at the same time as numerous faces appeared. At this instant, the gazes of the people from the Devil Gate froze as they held their breaths. Qin Wentian. One of the silhouettes was especially eye-catching. With a single glance, one could tell that all these silhouettes were actually experts from Qin Wentian's side. The gazes of Changqing the Great froze. After that, he smiled. Today was the last day of the 3 months deadline. Just when they thought that there was a possibility that both sides wouldn't appear, Qin Wentian led so many experts back. There was only one possibility. Qin Wentian's group had been guarding the exit on the other side, not allowing them to step out. As for the other possibility, Huang Shaishan's group had all been killed. The probability of that was even lower. These people were all intelligent people. They instantly thought of this possibility. However, the people from the Sky Mist Immortal Emperor's side weren't willing to believe this possibility. Their countenances kept changing, especially those from the 9 Emperors' immortal state. Huang Shaishan's strength had been tested by them. In addition to that terrifying divine weapon, who would be able to stop him? In addition, their lineup was even stronger. Why would Qin Wentian's group dare to guard the exit? Unless they borrowed external help. But if Qin Wentian could do it, how could Huang Shatian not do it as well? Very swiftly, numerous silhouettes walked out from Qin Wentian's group, moving towards the crowd. The people around him were all in high spirits, as though victory was already in their grasp. This further verified the speculations of the crowd. The adjudication battle had already concluded. Qin Wentian, how is it? The Emperor Qin Bian smiled. He was in a good mood when he saw Qin Wentian walking out. He should have already won. Qin Wentian smiled. Ah, good. The 1,000 Transformations Emperor Lord laughed. The eyes of the Evergreen Immortal Emperor also flashed with a smile as he spoke. Thank you for your hard work. Who was beside him, flashed and walked to the side of Qin Wentian. Her cold eyes revealed a smile as she stretched out her slender hand and held Qin Wentian's hand. Her soft palm gently rubbed Qin Wentian's palm, silently expressing the emotions in her heart. Qin, we won. Qin Wentian's other hand gently caressed Qin Er's hair as he smiled. Qin Er nodded lightly. She was as quiet as usual. There's still one more day. I don't think so, right? The Sky Mist Immortal Emperor had an unsightly expression on his face. This adjudication battle was initiated by him against the Evergreen Immortal Empire. Although there were many powers participating, the main characters were still his Sky Mist Immortal Empire and the Evergreen Immortal Empire. Creating such a huge storm in the eastern regions, initiating the adjudication battle in an era where there were no ancient emperors. If they were defeated in the adjudication battle, wouldn't they become a laughingstock? Qin Wentian turned his gaze to the Sky Mist Immortal Emperor as a mocking smile flashed in his eyes. There's indeed one more day. However, I'm afraid Senior will be disappointed. Not a single one of them will be able to come out. What do you mean by that? The Sky Mist Immortal Emperor coldly spoke. Nothing much, I'm just stating a fact. Qin Wentian replied. After that, he lifted his foot and moved towards the Immortal Emperors on his side. Because on the last day of the adjudication battle, GD, Nanfeng Guhong, Changqing the Great, Emperor Qianbian and the other experts were all here. Qin Wendian bowed to them, many thanks for the help of seniors. For this adjudication battle, there are some friends who might not be able to come out alive. Wenyan has let down all of you. After entering the myriad Devil Islands, everyone was scattered. Many of them died while tempering themselves in the myriad Devil Islands. This can't be blamed on you. Also, when they were together with you, none of them died. Also, you even defeated Huang Shatian. If it wasn't for that battle, there would still be suspense in the adjudication battle. You have already done very well. Mo Zian, who was at the side, spoke. Everyone nodded. In truth, this adjudication battle was more like a battle between Huang Shatian and Qin Wenyin. The two of them fought from the Fallen Devil region all the way to the Myriad Devil Islands, finally deciding the victor. As for the others, it was more like they went to the Myriad Devil Islands to temper themselves. He defeated Shatian? An immortal emperor from the 9 Emperors' immortal state coldly spoke. What shameless boasting! How can Shatian be defeated by him? At the foot of the myriad Devil Mountains, everyone watched. Huang Shatian was defeated. If it wasn't for someone siding with him, he would have already died. Nanfeng Ruoxuan mockingly spoke. A powerful might gushed forth from the immortal emperor of the 9 Emperors' immortal state. Can't afford to lose? Changqing the Great inclined his head and glanced at the immortal emperor as he coldly spoke. The adjudication battle hasn't truly concluded yet. I will wait for one more day. Although they knew the ending was already set, during these 10 years of waiting, they had always felt that they would win this battle. But in the end, they were defeated. They couldn't accept this. Hence, even if there was still a trace of hope, they were still filled with anticipation. Senior brother. Jun Mengchen walked towards Qin Wenyan as he smiled. You finally defeated that fellow Huang Shatian. Back in Tiandao Sacred Academy, I've always found that brother of yours to be an eyesore, thinking that he is invincible under the heavens. I truly wanted to see what expression he had when you defeated him. Jun Mengchen's words attracted cold gazes from the immortal emperor of the 9 Emperors' immortal state. However, he couldn't be bothered to care about it. He continued, during these days, those people have always believed themselves to be infallible, as though they have already won the adjudication battle. I wonder what they are thinking in their hearts now. I hope they aren't thinking about how to overturn the adjudication battle and find other reasons to start a dispute. Qin Wendian sarcastically spoke. The immortal realms initiated the adjudication battle and they accepted it, winning the adjudication battle. However, he didn't think that the immortal realms would give up just like that. Maybe they would find other excuses. This time, so many peak powers were implicated and the storm was so intense. If they let them retreat without obtaining anything, most probably, many of them would feel extremely unwilling. However, no matter what would happen in the future, they had already obtained victory in this adjudication battle. If the immortal realms were still unwilling, Emperor, you would be able to openly join in. Strands of intense baleful aura gushed over. These were experts from the White Tiger people. Most probably, these White Tigers hated him the most. Tiandao Sacred Academy's Qin Wendian roasted white tiger meat. The people from the White Tiger people wanted nothing more than to swallow him alive. This day seemed to be very long to the alliance of the Sky Mist Immortal Emperor. They always had hope, but in the end, they were still disappointed. After a day passed, Huang Shatian and the others still hadn't appeared. This indicated that the adjudication battle has officially ended. The Sky Mist Immortal Emperor, Zidi, Dongsheng Heaven Emperor and the other experts all cast a deep glance at Qin Wenyan. This little fellow back then was like an ant that they could kill with a single slap. Now, he has already broken through to the peak of Immortal Foundation. Although his cultivation base was pitifully weak to them, he was able to control the adjudication battle in the eastern regions. In the eyes of Zidi and Dongsheng Heaven Emperor, the killing intent they had for Qin Wenyan grew even more intense, even stronger compared to before. Seems like this young man couldn't be left alive any longer. If he continued to grow, he would surely become a calamity in the future. The people of the 9 emperors' immortal state were the most unwilling to accept this. That immortal emperor had an ashen expression. The adjudication battle with Huang Shatian as a participant was actually defeated. After Huang Shatian obtained the inheritance of the founding emperor, the 9 emperors' immortal state had high hopes for Huang Shatian. In addition, Huang Shatian was a peak-level genius from the Tiandao Sacred Academy. The 9 emperors' immortal state hoped that in the future, Huang Shatian would be able to become a hegemon of an era. Not only in the 9 emperors' immortal state, but in the vast and boundless immortal realms, he would become a character akin to an ancient emperor. The defeat in the adjudication battle didn't seem like much, but from a certain perspective, it was Huang Shaishan's defeat against Qin Wenyan. On the path to becoming a peak-level expert, the strongest person would be able to constantly eliminate his opponents and climb up step by step. From the looks of this defeat, the main character of that era wasn't Huang Shatian, because he was the one who was defeated. The experts of the 9 emperors' immortal state glanced at Qin Wenyan as killing intent flashed in their eyes. A dead person would never become the main character of an era. Qin Wenyan frowned. At this instant, he actually felt several unmasked killing intents. A cold intent appeared in his heart. He, a minor character at the Immortal Foundation realm, actually caused so many immortal emperors to feel such intense killing intent towards him. He didn't know if he should feel proud or depressed. At this moment, a beam of light flashed in the air. Emperor Yu stood in the air and laughed. The deadline for the adjudication battle has arrived. The alliance of the Evergreen Kingdom is victorious. Since this is the case, the earlier adjudication battle shall be annulled. Not only did the adjudication battle win, it was a complete victory. Not a single person from the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom alliance walked out. Such an ending was truly ironic. The adjudication battle was annulled? This was a battle that involved all the major powers of the eastern regions. Even the Namhuang clan, the 9 emperors' immortal state, the White Tiger people and the other major powers. Was it going to end just like that? In the eyes of those immortal emperors, unmasked reluctance could be seen. Brother Skymist, I've disappointed you. Chongqing the Great spoke, as though he was intentionally mocking the Evergreen Emperor. Even if we were defeated in the adjudication battle, could it be that Brother Chongqing intends to break the agreement between the immortal empires? The Skymist Immortal Emperor coldly spoke. You actually dare to bring up the Dog's Hit agreement between the immortal empires? How ridiculous! Chongqing the Great was extremely unhappy. He even cursed, since the adjudication battle is victorious, the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom will no longer harass my Evergreen Kingdom, right? At this moment, I, Evergreen, officially announce that I will betroth my beloved daughter, Qingya, to Qin Wenyan. Chongqing the Great solemnly spoke. The words of an immortal emperor were like 9 cauldrons. Chongqing the Great's words undoubtedly wanted the Skymist Immortal Emperor to renounce the marriage agreement. After the adjudication battle was decided, Chongqing the Great announced that he would betroth Qingya to Qin Wenyan. Could it be that the Skymist Immortal Emperor would regret it now? As expected, the expression of the Skymist Immortal Emperor turned black. The Namhuang clan, GD, and the other immortal emperors all stared at Chongqing the Great. Seems like Chongqing regarded Qin Wenyan with great importance. This definitely wasn't a moment of rashness. Qin Wenyan and Qingya held each other's hands. The two of them exchanged glances and smiled as their bodies leaned against each other. Now that their Evergreen Emperor has announced to the world, there was nothing that could obstruct them. Chapter 1320. Today was truly a sunny day. At the very least, Qin Wenyan felt this way. He inclined his head and stared at the sunlight before glancing at the Devil Gate behind him. All the gloominess had finally passed. Congratulations. Emperor Qianbian was the first to speak. Nanfeng Guhong's eyes flashed with a bright light as she cast a deep glance at Qin Wenyan and Qingya. Namhuang Yunshi of the Namhuang clan had a very good relationship with Qin Wenyan. Even though Namhuang Yunshi was the holy successor, given the talent Qin Wenyan displayed, the Namhuang clan could even make an exception and allow Namhuang Yunshi to marry him. However, Qin Wendian didn't seem to have such intentions. He preferred his childhood sweetheart, the daughter of the evergreen immortal emperor. Congratulations. Nanfeng Guhong spoke. Qingya, I wish you the best. GD smiled. Thank you, master. Qingya bowed to GD. Many thanks to seniors. Qin Wendian expressed his thanks. At this moment, a wave of energy fluctuations gushed out from the Devil Gate. The gazes of everyone turned over, and after that, they only saw a powerful devil cultivator stepping out from the Devil Gate. It was actually an immortal emperor. This scene caused the eyes of all the immortal emperors to gleam sharply as they stared at the figure who walked out. This person was naturally the vast Sky Devil Emperor. His agreement with Qin Wendian hasn't ended yet. He promised Qin Wendian that he would guard the Devil Gate for a day, and Qin Wendian didn't disappoint him. However, what caused the vast Sky Devil Emperor to be shocked was that there was actually a group of immortal emperors before him. Waves of terrifying immortal might gushed over. Although the vast Sky Devil Emperor was a Devil Emperor character, he couldn't help but to shiver at this moment as he cast a deep glance at Qin Wendian. This fellow seems like he had still underestimated Qin Wendian's background. Qin Wendian had several immortal emperors by his side. If Qin Wendian wanted to back out, there was nothing he could do. This is Senior Vast Sky Devil Emperor. In the myriad Devil Islands, it's all thanks to Senior Vast Sky Devil Emperor's care. Qin Wendian said. Immediately, everyone understood. As expected, he had borrowed external forces, and he had the Devil Emperor as his protector. No wonder Shatian and the rest didn't come out. Killing intent erupted from the eyes of the immortal emperor of the Nine Emperors' immortal state as a terrifying aura surged towards the vast Sky Demon Emperor. The Sky Mist immortal emperor and the others felt the same as well. In an instant, the fallen Devil Emperor's body stiffened as he prepared to retreat at any moment. The adjudication battle has always allowed one to borrow external forces. The rules were set by both parties. Now that the adjudication battle has already ended, are all the immortal emperors here starting to vent their anger on others? Qin Wendian laughed. Changqing the Great also spoke. Why? The adjudication battle has just ended and all of you are already planning to break the agreement? Senior Devil Emperor, please come over here. Qin Wendian spoke. The silhouette of the fallen Devil Emperor flashed, appearing beside Qin Wendian and the others as he glared at Qin Wendian. Luckily, he was someone from the myriad Devil Islands. In the future, when he returns to the myriad Devil Islands, these immortal emperors wouldn't be able to do anything to him. If not, if he was someone from the immortal realms, he would definitely be in deep trouble. Even if he was a Devil Emperor, he wouldn't be able to handle it. Let's return. Qin Wendian spoke. Changqing the Great nodded. The adjudication battle has already ended. Let's go. We can leave now. Emperor, you spoke. Let's go. Nanfeng Guhong also spoke. After that, the immortal emperors all left this place together. The vast Sky Devil Emperor also left together with them. Although the immortal emperors didn't ask much, since the vast Sky Devil Emperor followed them, it was clear that Qin Wendian had agreed to some conditions. If not, why would a Devil Emperor act for you? After they left, the Sky Mist Immortal Emperor and the others still didn't leave. They still wanted to wait for their people to come out. The expressions of the immortal emperors were all extremely unsightly. The White Tiger people spoke. Evergreen broke the agreement, ignoring the agreement between the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom and the Evergreen Kingdom. Now, he even betrothed his daughter to Qin Wendian in front of everyone. Can the Sky Mist Immortal Emperor endure this? From your point of view, what should my Tenlon Heaven Kingdom do? The Sky Mist Immortal Emperor calmly asked. Although they were temporarily allies because of the same goal, their true relationship wasn't that good. Back then, the Evergreen Kingdom suffered heavy losses. Your Tenlon Heaven Kingdom is stronger than them, not weaker. Can't you act more domineeringly? The White Tiger people's voice was filled with demonic chi. You should have also seen that this battle is no longer a battle between my Tenlon Heaven Kingdom and the Evergreen Kingdom. All the major powers are involved as well. Just GD alone is extremely troublesome. Now that the adjudication battle has been won, if we continue to act, We would only anger Emperor Yu. That old fellow has been in hiding for so many years, no one knows where he came from. To think that he is actually so powerful. If we want to touch him, we can only do so if the 9 Emperors' immortal state and the White Tiger people use their full strength to aid us. It isn't something that can be done with just 1 or 2 immortal emperors. The Sky Mist Immortal Emperor calmly spoke. Clearly, he was unwilling and wanted to incite the White Tiger people of the 9 Emperors' immortal state to get involved in this. The eyes of the immortal emperors of the 9 Emperors' immortal state and the demon emperors of the White Tiger people flashed. If they truly wanted to get involved in this storm, it would no longer be a small matter. Even if they were immortal emperors, they wouldn't be able to make the decision. On the other side of the Devil Gate, the fallen Devil Emperor stared at the departing Vast Sky Devil Emperor. He instantly guessed that the Vast Sky Devil Emperor had an agreement with Qin Wenin. A trace of regret appeared in his heart. He might have missed out on something. Bai Qing stared at the Devil Gate as her beautiful eyes turned slightly moist. The time is up. She didn't know if her Wen-Ian Gij has already left or not. After this separation, she didn't know when she would be able to see her Wen-Ian Gij again. She hoped that Wen-Ian Gij and Sis Qinga would be able to live in bliss. Turning around, the gentleness in Bai Qing's eyes vanished, only leaving behind the nobility and coldness of a priestess. Let's return. With a command, the Judiciary Army returned, leaving this place in an imposing manner. The fallen Devil Emperor cast a deep glance at the Devil Gate before turning to leave as well. That junior named Qin Wenin was most probably someone he, a Devil Emperor, would never be able to forget. After they left, there would still be devil cultivators coming here before they returned. Several days later, Huang Shatian and the others arrived at the Devil Gate. Staring at the Devil Gate, Huang Shatian could only sigh in his heart. He initially thought that he still had a chance to fight. However, when he saw the 2 Devil Emperors from the Judiciary Devil Hall, his preparations were completely ruined. Against the Judiciary Devil Hall, the helpers he invited directly gave up. With just himself, how could he deal with 2 Devil Emperors? This battle he lost without even fighting. Now, if he went out, how could he face the elders of the Immortal Empire? However, he still had to face all of this. Only by calmly admitting his failure would he have a chance to stand up again. Lifting his feet, Huang Shatian led his people towards the Devil Gate. They would remember the defeat of the myriad Devil Islands. In the blink of an eye, it has already been 3 months since the adjudication battle ended. During these 3 months, Qin Wenin reunited with his family and friends. The various immortal emperors also brought their juniors back to their sex and powers. The Sky Mist Immortal Emperor and the others seemed to have accepted their defeat. Everything was calm and peaceful. Only in the eastern regions, countless voices rang out. The fluctuations caused by the adjudication battle back then were too intense. In the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom, a heaven-shaking battle erupted. Immortal emperors descended and an emperor-ranked battle appeared. After that, the adjudication battle appeared, involving the major powers of the eastern regions. Right now, the adjudication battle finally concluded. It was rumored that the Evergreen Kingdom alliance led by Qin Wenin obtained a complete victory. When the deadline of 10 years was up, not a single expert from the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom walked out. After that, the ruler of the Chongqing the Great officially betrothed the noble and beautiful Princess Qing'er to Qin Wenin, completely ignoring the marriage agreement between the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom. The Tenlon Heaven Kingdom was defeated in the adjudication battle, but they had nothing to say. For a period of time, Qin Wentian's name began to circulate through the countless cities of the eastern regions. Many rumors about him also began to spread. For example, it was rumored that back then, Qin Wenin was someone from a particle world and was once humiliated by the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. After that, he participated in the Dongshengshan Gate competition and obtained first place, rejecting the invitation of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor to take him in as a disciple, choosing to join the Emperor Qianbian instead, slapping the face of the Eastern Sage Immortal Realms. Another example was that he obtained first place in the Immortal Ascension rankings in the City of Ancient Emperors and headed to the Evergreen Kingdom Palace where his beloved Qing'e was from. At that time, No one in the same generation in the Evergreen Kingdom could stand against him. There were also rumors that he entered the Tiandao Sacred Academy and became one of the most dazzling characters there, able to summon the wind and summon the rain, an unparalleled character. The Tiandao Sacred Academy symbolized the birth of an ancient emperor. Qin Wenin might very well be the next ancient emperor. There were also people saying that when he went to the myriad Devil Islands to participate in the adjudication battle, he was able to summon the wind and summon the rain. There were even devil emperors who regarded him highly and helped him out. All sorts of rumors regarding Qin Wendian were countless, spreading throughout the eastern regions. This was especially so in the Cloud Prefecture city where the immortal Qinbian Gate was located, as well as the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom. In the eastern regions, there had never been an immortal foundation character who could be as famous as Qin Wendian. After all, in the immortal realms, many immortal kings weren't known by others. Only immortal emperors would be known by others. Given how many immortal foundation characters there were, it was already considered not bad for them to be famous in a city. Qin Wendian, despite being at the immortal foundation realm, his fame had already spread throughout the eastern regions. This could be said to be a miracle, and many youths even set him as their goal, hoping that one day, they would be able to be like Qin Wendian, becoming a character whose name shook the world. Just at the immortal foundation realm, he could already roam freely among the immortal emperors. In fact, even the ruler of the Evergreen Immortal Empire would betroth his most beloved daughter to him. This was simply a legend in the annals of history. In addition, Qin Wendian was someone who originated from a particle world, adding color to this legend, making it even more inspiring. However, Qin Wendian wasn't that happy about his fame. The tallest tree in the forest would be destroyed by the wind. Fame wasn't a good thing. This was especially so when there were some rumors saying that he might become an ancient emperor after the appearance of the Tiandao Sacred Academy. Undoubtedly, this would cause him to be in the eye of the storm. This was especially so since he had offended so many major powers. In fact, there were even a few immortal emperors who revealed their killing intent towards him when he was outside the devil sect. The killing intent of immortal emperors, to Qin Wendian, was an extremely dangerous thing. Chapter 1321. Right now, Qin Wendian was currently in the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom. The Chongqing the Great has already announced to the world that Qing'er was betrothed to him and he could already be considered the prince consort of the Evergreen Kingdom. It was only right and proper for him to stay in the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. Because of this news, during these 3 months, everyone in the royal capital was discussing it. Qin Wendian and Princess Qing'er could be said to be a perfect match, an immortal couple. Both of them had outstanding talent, were handsome and beautiful, a match made in heaven. This was especially so for the adjudication battle this time around. It was rumored that Qin Wendian was the core. It was him who caused the adjudication battle initiated by the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom to fail. No matter from which angle one looked at it from, there was no doubt that he was the best candidate to be the prince consort. Naturally, the fact that the Chongqing the Great was able to announce it to the world when he was only at the Immortal Foundation realm could also be considered to be extremely daring. To ordinary people, a peak-level Immortal Foundation might be considered a pretty good strength. But to the royal clan of the Evergreen Kingdom, it was extremely weak. Right now, the Chongqing the Great was in closed-door seclusion. During these 3 months, he learned that Qin Wendian actually possessed the sacred luminance and used it to cleanse his and the Emperor of Qinbian's bodies. Naturally, there was also the Vast Sky Devil Emperor. After that, the Vast Sky Devil Emperor took the initiative to return to the myriad Devil Islands. After all, this place wasn't his territory and he didn't want to be embroiled in the storm of the immortal realms. The things he did for Qin Wendian have already been completed and Qin Wendian had also been fulfilled. After the Vast Sky Devil Emperor left, the Chongqing the Great and the Emperor of Qinbian naturally wouldn't spread the news of the sacred luminance. They were only preparing to enter closed-door seclusion for a period of time, doing their best to grow stronger. In the Evergreen Kingdom Palace, there was a formation space. The formation space in the battlefield was vast and boundless. Qin Wendian was inside. In front of Qin Wendian, there was a middle-aged man with a dignified expression. Light flowed all over his body, enveloping the area around him. The light was actually the power of rules. Under this power, Qin Wendian felt that he could not lift his legs. They were extremely heavy. Try again. The middle-aged man spoke to Qin Wendian. His voice was like thunder, exploding into Qin Wendian's eardrums. Qin Wendian's silhouette flashed as he abruptly stepped out, causing the earth to rumble. His entire body radiated a terrifying light as the ancient halberd in his hand stabbed out. The shadow of a great rock could be faintly seen, wanting to tear everything apart. However, at this moment, a wall appeared around the middle-aged man. It was an incomparably resplendent wall formed from immortal law energy. With a thunderous boom, the ancient halberd pierced through the wall. The terrifying collision caused a shrill sound to ring out. Qin Wendian's attack actually managed to penetrate inside, but the strength of the law energy within the wall continued to grow thicker and thicker, pressing down on Qin Wendian. Boom! A huge force directly slammed into Qin Wendian, causing him to be flung through the air. Qin Wendian borrowed the force of the impact to retreat. His feet were a little unsteady as he landed on the ground. He stared at the middle-aged man and shook his head. I initially thought that the distance between me and immortal kings wasn't that far. Who would have thought that it would be so great? Have you fought against immortal kings before? The middle-aged man asked. I borrowed the power of treasures and even killed immortal kings before. Qin Wendian nodded. No wonder you would have such thoughts. The treasures you borrowed are definitely extremely powerful, so powerful that they can directly break apart the law domains of immortal kings. The middle-aged man spoke to Qin Wendian. He then continued, however, fighting with one's own body and fighting with the power of divine treasures are different. Many people have the illusion of breaking through to the immortal king realm, but in truth, they aren't considered true immortal kings. At the immortal king realm, law domains would be born. The closer one is to one's body, the more terrifying the law domain would be. Qin Wendian frowned as he asked in bewilderment, but after reaching the peak of immortal foundation, there are already many people who have stepped into the gate of the immortal king realm. For example, those who participated in the adjudication battle this time around are all the same. Some of the more powerful characters have already immersed themselves in the adjudication battle for many years and their comprehension of law domains are already extremely high. Since I encountered such people, I should have the ability to defeat them. But why can't I defeat immortal kings? He involuntarily thought of Huang Shatian. Characters like Huang Shatian were already extremely powerful. There were also those who participated in the adjudication battle, and there were also many who were extremely close to the immortal king realm. However, among these people, he and Huang Shatian were the strongest. This made Qin Wendian feel that he was already strong enough to fight against ordinary immortal kings. Do you understand divine inscriptions? That middle-aged man asked. A little. Qin Wendian nodded. When you inscribe divine inscriptions, you have to inscribe them step by step, continuously completing each step, getting closer and closer to the completed divine inscription. However, what is the difference between a completed divine inscription and a completed divine inscription? The middle-aged man gave an analogy. A look of enlightenment appeared on Qin Wendian's face. That's right, he was someone who cultivated in divine inscriptions before and naturally understood this logic. Before a divine inscription is completely inscribed, even if one was a step off, the difference could be said to be 1,000 miles. If this step was wrong, the divine inscription would crumble. It was the same for divine inscriptions' grand formations as well. Before the formation was completed, there was a limit to its might and there was no way to compare it. The middle-aged man saw the expression on Qin Wendian's face and knew that Qin Wendian had already understood. He smiled. It's the same for cultivation bases as well. Before taking that final step, no matter how far you walk, the disparity between you and a true immortal king is still too great. Only when your law domain is completed and your body of laws is born, can you be considered to have truly attained the immortal king physique. Countless Wu Xiu have never been able to take that final step in their entire lives. I've benefited from the guidance. Qin Wendian bowed. The middle-aged man smiled and nodded. Given Qin Wentian's status, there was basically no need for him to bow to him. However, this young man seemed to be an extremely senior. His talent was extraordinary, and he, who would soon become the prince consort of the empire, didn't have any arrogance at all. This was extremely rare and valuable. No wonder the evergreen immortal emperor would betroth the princess to him. Even if I don't explain such shallow logic, you will soon learn of it from others. I'm merely saying it first. Wenyan, there's no need to be so polite. Let's continue fighting. I know you haven't used your full strength yet. I really want to see if you can truly threaten immortal kings in your strongest state. The middle-aged man laughed. Qin Wenyan nodded, his eyes flashing with excitement. After that, a terrifying storm of law energy gushed forth from him as his silhouette flashed. He rushed forward once more, clashing against the immortal king. For a period of time, the sounds of battle shook the sky. Although Qin Wenyan still wasn't able to shake the middle-aged man, he was still able to hold on. But even so, this already caused the middle-aged immortal king to feel admiration in his heart. This was the first time he had seen such a powerful immortal foundation character. For the next period of time, Qin Wendian stayed in the formation space, clashing against different immortal kings. This was an order personally given by the Chongqing the Great. He wanted some of the immortal kings in the royal palace to fight against him, allowing Qin Wendian to personally experience what the immortal king realm was like. Such cultivation conditions weren't something ordinary disciples of major powers would have. Right now, the cultivation base before Qin Wendian was precisely the barrier of the immortal king realm. This was why the Chongqing the Great made such an arrangement. Today, another immortal king appeared before Qin Wendian. This immortal king was actually very young. Seems like he wasn't very old when he became an immortal king. Also, his demeanor was extraordinary, different from the other immortal kings he met before. He exuded a faint air of arrogance. His Majesty gave the order for immortal kings to spar against you. Before this, you should have already fought against several immortal kings, right? That young immortal king asked. Qin Wendian nodded. Fine, make your preparations. Since this is a tempering exercise for you, I won't show any mercy. The young man indifferently stated. Qin Wendian's eyes flickered. What did he mean by, won't show any mercy? However, he didn't ask. His aura gushed forth as he made his preparations for combat. Bzzz. A wind gusted by. In an instant, the entire space was filled with the law energy of wind. The silhouette of the young immortal king vanished from sight. Qin Wendian's aura frenziedly erupted forth. His eyes of truth flashed as he saw a gray figure moving unceasingly. Fast, too fast. Immortal kings borrowed the power of the law domain of wind to move. How terrifying would their speed be? Sword light abruptly gushed forth along with the wind, akin to a terrifying bolt of lightning. The law energy of wind was already fast and sharp. Now that the sword chi was infused within, what sort of speed and sharpness would it be able to reach? Qin Wendian was fully focused. The shadow of the divine turtle appeared as demonic chi revolved around it, gushing forth violently. Puchi! The shadow of the divine turtle was directly torn apart. That sword light broke through the defense and slashed towards Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian blasted out with God's hand before he managed to block it. Chi. However, that gray figure unceasingly stabbed out with his fingers. At this instant, the storm of wind that enveloped Qin Wendian actually completely fused with the sword chi. This was a storm that could kill. Qin Wendian's expression was extremely heavy. His entire body radiated an incomparably tyrannical aura as his flawless immortal foundation erupted forth. Countless ancient characters appeared on his body, suppressing the surroundings. However, the storm of wind was too sharp and intense. It continued tearing apart the ancient characters and continued on its way towards Qin Wendian. I have to break out of this encirclement. Qin Wendian's eyes flashed. Being surrounded by the storm of wind here, there was basically no way for him to fight. His eyes gleamed with light of truth as he rushed towards a location where the attacks were the weakest. A terrifying devilish light radiated from him, tyrannical to the extreme. Open a path. The god's hand shone with destructive light as it blasted out, destroying everything in its path. But at this moment, a gray figure flashed. It seemed to be a human figure. The figure stabbed out a finger in the direction where Qin Wenin was trying to break out of. In an instant, boundless windstorms actually gushed forth from the finger, blasting towards Qin Wenin. Just as he was about to make his move, several figures suddenly rushed into the formation. Stop! What are you doing? A loud roar rang out, sounding somewhat frenzied. However, that attack still blasted out. Qin Wentian's energy was completely destroyed. The terrifying attack pierced into his body, causing him to be flung through the air as he coughed out a mouthful of blood. He only felt a destructive energy rampaging wildly within his body. The storm of wind dissipated in an instant. The young man laughed and stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He stared at the newcomer and spoke. His Majesty instructed me to temper him. I'm only here to spar with him. What are you guys so nervous about? You have been in the Immortal King realm for so many years and are already extremely proficient in controlling law domains. What cultivation realm is he at? The way you are fighting, you call it sparring? The person who came was the Scarlet Eye Marquis, the husband of Princess Chongping. He was an old acquaintance of Qin Wenin. He was now berating the young man. If you can't do it, why do you still want an immortal king to spar with you? Is there any meaning to it? The young man didn't give the Scarlet Eye Marquis any face. He coldly laughed and directly stepped out of the formation. Chapter 1322. This fellow. The Scarlet Eye Marquis was somewhat unhappy. He stared at Qin Wenin, who was stabilizing his aura. Wenin, are you all right? I'm fine. Qin Wenin shook his head. That young immortal king didn't seem to be very pleasing to his eyes. That fellow's surname is Evergreen. This isn't an ordinary nobility. He is a relative of the Evergreen Immortal Emperor and has always been arrogant. Let me report this to the Evergreen Immortal Emperor and punish him. The Scarlet Eye Marquis spoke. So this is the case. Qin Wenin silently mused. He smiled at the Scarlet Eye Marquis. There's no need. It's normal for one to be injured during sparring. It would be making a big fuss out of nothing to report to the Evergreen Immortal Emperor for such a small matter. That's true. However, that fellow earlier clearly had the intention of targeting you. Before this, we didn't arrange for him to spar with you. He was the one who entered the formation. Clearly, he did so intentionally. The Scarlet Eye Marquis spoke. Although he was somewhat angry, he was merely saying it. It was impossible for him to really report such a small matter to the Evergreen Immortal Emperor. If he did so, it would seem that Qin Wenin was too unmagnanimous. Evergreen Yuhao's father is the brother of the Evergreen Immortal Emperor and was extremely powerful. However, he died in the civil war back then. Hence, the Evergreen Immortal Emperor has always felt apologetic towards Evergreen Yuhao and nurtured him wholeheartedly, sending him to various places to cultivate. When you were still cultivating in Tiandao Sacred Academy, he returned and has already broken through to the Immortal King realm. The Scarlet Eye Marquis stared at Qin Wenin. He's targeting you. I guess it's because of the engagement between you and Qin. Qin Wentian nodded lightly. Let's go out and chat. The Scarlet Eye Marquis nodded. The group of them walked out of the formation. The others stood guard at the entrance while the Scarlet Eye Marquis and Qin Wenin headed towards the direction of Princess Chongping. How do you feel after sparring during these few days? The Scarlet Eye Marquis asked. The path of cultivation is long. I can only take it step by step. Qin Wenin smiled. Given your terrifying foundation, once you step into the Immortal King realm, ordinary Immortal Kings won't be able to compare to you. It's easier said than done. Stepping into the Immortal King realm is still a long way off, and I don't even know how long it will take. Qin Wentian sighed. Why do you say that? You are improving every day, and your comprehension of the laws is also very strong. Sooner or later, you will enter the Immortal King realm. Although others might need a very long time, I believe it won't take too long for you. The Scarlet Eye Marquis was very optimistic about Qin Wenyan. In the immortal Qianbian Gate, it said that Senior Bai Wuya has already cultivated for 8,000 years. In addition, Senior Bai Wuya's talent can be considered extremely good. I wonder how long it will take for me to step into the immortal king realm. Qin Wendian spoke in a low voice. I've also heard of Bai Wuya before. Although he has cultivated for over 8,000 years, his current cultivation base should already be at the peak level of the immortal king realm. In that case, when he steps into the immortal king realm, the amount of time he would need would be far from being as exaggerated as 8,000 years. You must know that after reaching the immortal king realm, if you want to take another step forward, the amount of time required would far surpass the total amount of time you spent cultivating in the past. The Scarlet Eye Marquis replied. Qin Wendian nodded lightly. Senior brother Bai Wuya should have already walked very far in the immortal king realm. Tens of years ago in a particle world, he killed the Deep Flame Immortal King, a subordinate of the Dongsheng Heaven Emperor, on the spot. At that time, there was a battle between immortal kings, but senior brother Bai Wuya single-handedly turned the situation around. In addition, Bai Wuya's speed of cultivation is only in comparison to ordinary immortal kings, right? I know that some of the strongest geniuses from the peak powers have extremely terrifying cultivation speeds as well. As for you, you have already surpassed those geniuses of that level and your good fortune isn't bad at all. Why can't you step into the immortal king realm within a short period of time? His Majesty betrothed Qing'er to you when you are at the immortal foundation realm. Do you know what this means? In the immortal realms, which ruler of an immortal empire would have such courage? Is it really just because you obtained victory in the adjudication battle? The Scarlet Eye Marquis spoke. Qin Wendian's eyes flashed, only to hear the Scarlet Eye Marquis continuing, "This is something that has never happened before in the immortal realms. Qing'er is the most doted-on daughter of His Majesty. Do you know how much hope His Majesty has placed on you? Since this is the case, even if you can create an unprecedented cultivation record, what's wrong with that?" Qin Wendian's heart trembled as he felt ashamed in his heart. He actually didn't understand why the Chongqing the Great and the Scarlet Eye Marquis regarded him so highly. In fact, they even believed that he would be able to create an unprecedented cultivation record. Since the Great Emperor and the Scarlet Eye Marquis dared to think this way, why couldn't he have the same conviction? Senior brother Bai Wuya was very powerful, but he wasn't born strong. He relied on himself bit by bit, and after stepping into the immortal king realm, he grew even stronger, killing 13 experts at the same level as him. But at that time, in the projection of the Dongsheng Heaven Emperor Palace, Bai Wuya's companions were the Undying Immortal King, Scarce Moon Immortal King, and the others. Comparing Bai Wuya to them, he naturally had a huge advantage. In truth, Bai Wuya was still concealing some of his strength. It was only after he killed the Deep Flame Immortal King did the Eastern Sage Immortal King learn of his true strength. Since Marquis has put it this way, seems like I have to work even harder. Qin Wendian laughed. As the two of them chatted, they arrived at the Princess Chongping residence. During these few days, he was mainly staying here. After all, Qing'er was only betrothed to him and hadn't truly married him yet. It was naturally impossible for him to move into the princess residence where Qing'er was staying. However, during these few days, Qing'er had been staying in the Princess Chongping residence. Qing'er. Qin Wendian smiled when he saw Qing'er waiting for him. He walked up and held her dainty hands. Qing'er's aura was as cold as ever. She allowed Qin Wendian to hold her hands. "Look at the two of you, you two are so young and innocent. I feel like I'm an extra." Princess Chongping stared at the two juniors and smiled. "In that case, let's leave and not disturb them." The Scarlet Eye Marquis also laughed. "Let me and Qing'er take a stroll outside the royal palace." Qin Wendian spoke. "All right, you two go ahead." Princess Chongping didn't have any objections. Qin Wendian pulled Qing'er and left the place. Very soon, there were many figures following them from afar. These people seemed to be hidden in the darkness, but Qin Wendian knew of their existence. They were the people protecting him in the dark. These were extraordinary times. Although there had been peace for nearly 4 months after the adjudication battle, everyone understood that the people of the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom alliance wouldn't give up so easily. No one knew what they would do. Hence, even if they were in the imperial city of the Evergreen Kingdom, they still had to be cautious. Qin Wenyan naturally wouldn't reject the protection of these experts. He acted as though nothing had happened and left the royal palace with Qingya strolling in the bustling imperial city. On the bustling streets of the royal capital, there were many people coming and going. The silhouettes of Qin Wenyan and Qing easily attracted the attention of the majority. The demeanor of the two of them was simply too outstanding. Not only that, Qingya's cold beauty caused people to be stunned by her beauty. Many people were silently speculating that given the demeanor of these two, they definitely had extraordinary identities. Qingya, many people are looking at you. Qin Wenyan squeezed Qingya's palm as he smiled. They're looking at you as well. Qingya coldly replied. Their gazes are filled with envy and jealousy. Such gazes are truly enjoyable to look at. Qin Wenyan's lips curled up in a satisfied smile, as though he was asking for a spanking. Being able to stroll in the crowd with the woman he loved, forgetting about cultivation and enjoying a rare moment of peace and tranquility, was truly a wonderful thing. Qingya rolled her eyes at Qin Wenyan. Shall we go to an inn and enjoy some immortal-tasting delicacies? Qin Wenyan asked Qingya. Sure. Qingya nodded lightly. After which, the two of them headed towards an inn and chose an extremely good location, allowing them to overlook the surrounding streets and view the bustling imperial capital. Do you dislike crowded places? Qin Wenyan asked Qingya, who was sitting beside him. Qingya stared at Qin Wenyan as she lightly shook her head. With you around, I like everything. Qin Wenyan blinked as he stared at Qingya. This lass actually knew how to say such touching words. Upon seeing the fiery gaze of Qin Wenyan, Qingya's face revealed a soul-stirring expression. Qin Wenyan held her dainty hand as he spoke in a light voice. Qingya, actually I don't wish to marry you too early. Once in our particle world, I was able to give Qingqing a grand wedding. But in the immortal realms, the me now still needs to rely on your father. I have no way to give you a grand wedding. In that case, can we do it twice? Qingya smiled. Qin Wenyan blinked his eyes as he spoke in a gentle voice. Qingya, I truly like you more and more. At a place some distance away from here, there was also an inn. At this moment, a young man was currently drinking wine in a certain location, seemingly in a bad mood. If Qin Wenyan was here, he would be able to recognize that this young man was none other than the young immortal king Evergreen Yuhao, who had a prejudice against him in the formation earlier. Immortal kings were also humans, and humans would have their own troubles. Evergreen Yuhao naturally had his own troubles as well. Hence, he was drinking wine alone. At this moment, an old man in tattered robes walked into the inn. He exuded no aura at all, and his eyes were cloudy. He stumbled as he walked towards Evergreen Yuhao and actually sat down. Evergreen Yuhao's eyes flashed with coldness. He was originally in a bad mood, yet there was actually someone who dared to disturb him while he was drinking. Young man, can you enjoy some wine? The old man's voice was hoarse. As he spoke, another voice rang out in Evergreen Yuhao's mind. Evergreen Royal Tribe, Evergreen Yuhao. Evergreen Yuhao's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he stared at the old man. Being able to know his identity and even dare to sit before him, this old man was definitely not an ordinary old man. However, he truly couldn't sense any aura from this old man. It could only be that this old man's cultivation base was higher than him and could easily hide from him. For you, Evergreen Yuhao transmitted his voice back. Who I am isn't important. Back then, what sort of character was your father? He protected the Chongqing the Great and eventually died in battle. Although the Chongqing the Great treated you well, it was mostly because of guilt and pity. Your talent is shocking, yet you were always hidden behind the scenes. And now, a junior actually attracted so much attention. The Chongqing the Great even betrothed Princess Qing him. From this, one can very well imagine that in the future, this junior would definitely have towering authority in the empire, standing above you and even commanding you. The old man slowly spoke. Evergreen Yuhao's expression changed, becoming somewhat unsightly to behold. He coldly scolded, "Impudent! The matters of the Evergreen Kingdom are not something you dare to talk about." Chapter 1323. The sloppy-looking old man stared at Evergreen Yuhao and casually laughed. "Your father died in battle for Evergreen. Evergreen should treat you like his own son, but he didn't do so. He also didn't betroth his beloved daughter, Princess Qing'e, to you. Instead, he betrothed her to an outsider. To think that you are actually willing to do so. I originally have a good solution, but since you are willing, just pretend that I didn't say anything." The two of them communicated via voice transmission, not alerting anyone else. After speaking, the sloppy-looking old man directly turned and prepared to leave. "What solution do you have?" All of a sudden, Evergreen Yuhao transmitted his voice over. "If you trust me, then come with me." The sloppy-looking old man turned his head and glanced at Evergreen Yuhao. Evergreen Yuhao frowned and hesitated for a moment, but eventually, he still stood up and followed behind the sloppy-looking old man. Qin Wenyan and Qing'er didn't know what happened to Evergreen Yuhao. It was rare for the two of them to have such a leisurely time. Naturally, they would do their best to enjoy themselves. In truth, ordinary people would have more time to enjoy life. As for them, they were constantly working hard in their cultivation to increase their strength. Under the pressure from all directions, they could only try their best to grow stronger. Although Qing'er was extremely beautiful, nobody dared to disturb them when they walked on the streets. After all, this place was the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, where experts were as common as the clouds. Their auras were extraordinary, and who knew what background they had? Ordinary people wouldn't dare to offend them casually. On the way, Qing'er had a few sets of immortal robes in her hands. These were all specially chosen by Qin Wenyan for Qing'e. Qing'e was like a fairy that didn't eat the food of the mortal world. She didn't have any pursuits, but as long as it was chosen by Qin Wenyan, she would be extremely happy. There were people specially prepared for her in the royal palace. Being able to choose clothes together with Qin Wenyan naturally gave her a different feeling. Occasionally, a faint smile would appear on her cold face. At this moment, Qin Wentian's footsteps suddenly slowed. A silhouette appeared before him. It was actually the person who injured him in the formation earlier. According to what the Scarlet Eye Marquis said, this person was none other than Evergreen Yuhao, a member of the royal clan of the Immortal Empire. Qing'er kept the immortal robe in her hands. Her cold eyes stared at Evergreen Yuhao, not knowing what he meant by this. "Qing'e." Evergreen Yuhao walked over. Qing'er furrowed her brows. She had grown up in this particle world since she was young. Let alone Evergreen Yuhao, who was a member of the royal clan, she wasn't even close to her own elder brother. The only two men she was close to was her father, Chongqing the Great, and the other was Qin Wenyan, who was by her side. "What's the matter?" Qing'er asked cold. "Qing'e, why are you so cold to me?" Evergreen Yuhao calmly spoke. Qing'e furrowed her brows. Her originally cold eyes grew even colder. Upon seeing the look in Qing'er's eyes, Evergreen Yuhao laughed. "Indeed, you father and daughter have never valued me highly." As the sound of his voice faded, his eyes abruptly gleamed with an evil light. "Careful!" Qin Wenyan suddenly spoke, pulling Qing'er along as he retreated. His eyes gleamed resplendently, containing the will of truth within, able to see through all illusions. From Evergreen Yuhao's eyes, he could see killing intent. And as expected, at the instant he retreated, the killing intent in Evergreen Yuhao's eyes was completely unmasked. It was so violent that it was terrifying to the extreme. A member of the Evergreen royal clan actually had such a strong killing intent in him? It was simply unimaginable. Evergreen Yuhao instantly erupted forth with terrifying law energy as his law domain manifested. A boundless storm of law energy enveloped Qin Wenyan and Qing'e, enveloping both Qin Wenyan and Qing'er within. The fearsome storm of sharpness ravaged Qin Wenyan and Qing'e, wanting to tear them apart. "Evergreen Yuhao, stay your hand." "Impudent!" Everything happened in an instant. From afar, a thunderous roar rang out, causing everyone in this vast space to tremble. They turned their gazes in the direction of the voice, only to see a terrifying aura enveloping this entire space, powerful to an unfathomable extent. Immortal King, what's going on? The eyes of everyone gleamed with sharpness as their hearts trembled. They hadn't recovered yet. And at this moment, Evergreen Yuhao already acted. His body transformed into a shadow as he sped towards Qin Wenyin. He wasn't aiming for Qing'er but for Qin Wenyin. Fast, too fast. There was only an afterimage, so fast that Qin Wenyin basically couldn't react in time. He could only rely on his powerful will to push out a palm strike towards Qing'er, causing Qing'er to fly away. Evergreen Yuhao's killing intent was locked onto him. In that case, as long as Qing'er separated from him, she would be able to avoid the aftershocks. Before this, Qin Wenyin had already experienced Evergreen Yuhao's speed under the effects of his wind law domain. But clearly, that wasn't his maximum speed. Right now, he was facing Evergreen Yuhao who was using his full strength, exuding a powerful killing intent. The Evergreen Yuhao stabbed out with his finger. The space where Qin Wenyin was at was about to shatter. From the moment Evergreen Yuhao's killing intent erupted to the moment he stabbed out with his finger, Qin Wenyin only had time to do two actions. He pushed Qing'er away and pulled out his demon sword. The aura from Qin Wenyin erupted forth in a frenzy without any pattern. The terrifying shadow of a great rock appeared, flapping its wings as it slashed through the air, wanting to destroy everything. The two attacks collided together. His demon sword was almost flung out of his hand. Other than this, the boundless killing intent from his law domain completely suppressed Qin Wentian's law domain. Their cultivation bases were no longer on the same level. Qin Wentian's law domain naturally had no way to defend against it. Chi-chi. Terrifying tearing sounds rang out. Qin Wenyin only felt his defenses shattering apart as the terrifying attacks left behind bloody scars on his body. He rapidly retreated, his immortal foundation erupted forth as demonic qi gushed forth. In fact, there was even a vast amount of devil might gushing forth, causing the space around him to be in chaos. A fearsome tempest manifested in this space, wanting to engulf Qin Wenyin within it. A shadow appeared before Qin Wenyin once more. It was none other than Evergreen Yuhao. The Evergreen Yuhao's eyes gleamed with an evil light. With a loud roar, he pointed a finger at Qin Wenyin. A moment later, the tempest transformed into a sword of destruction that descended from the sky. For a moment, millions upon millions of sword beams slashed down at the same time, aiming for Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyin roared. The demon's sword slashed out as the shadow of a great rock manifested. However, under the attack of an immortal king, it was directly broken apart. Qin Wenyin wanted to take out his other two treasures, but it wasn't that he wasn't willing to do so. It was because Evergreen Yuhao basically didn't want to give him any time. If he wasted even a moment, his opponent's attack would be able to kill him. His immortal energy instantly turned devilish as devilish light towered up into the sky. His body radiated boundless light, resembling the body of a god. At the same time, boundless devil might gushed towards the tempest swords, transforming into a light of judgment that enveloped him completely. He then soared up into the sky, resisting the incoming attacks. The space where Qin Wenyin was in was like an apocalypse. Everything was filled with destructive might as the two types of energy clashed against each other. Evergreen Yuhao's finger frenziedly pressed downwards, causing the earth to shatter. Qin Wenyin was almost engulfed by the destructive might. Inescapable net. A cold voice rang out. Several immortal kings appeared, taking out their powerful divine weapons. In an instant, a dazzling white light flashed, causing everyone's eyes to be blinded. The translucent blades formed into an inescapable net that shot towards Evergreen Yuhao, instantly sealing the entire space. All the attacks were blocked within as intense sounds of collision rang out. Wenyin. Qing'er rushed towards Qin Wenyin. Her countenance was as pale as paper. Earlier, everything happened too fast, so fast that she didn't know what to do. Evergreen Yuhao actually wanted to kill Qin Wenyin. This was simply unimaginable. Could it be that Evergreen Yuhao didn't want to live anymore? How foolish was this? It didn't seem like something an immortal king would do. Over at Qin Wentian's side, all the attacks landed. Qin Wentian stood there unmoving, causing Qing to hold her breath. Drops of blood dripped from her body as she breathed heavily. How dangerous! Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice. He turned his head and stared at Qing as he smiled. Qing, it's fine. Qing silhouette flashed, directly appearing beside Qin Wentian. Her hands trembled as she held his face. Who told you to do this? Protecting my wife, isn't this what I should do? Qin Wentian shrugged, not minding it at all. Rolled her eyes at him before turning back to the battlefield. The inescapable net trapped Evergreen Yuhao, and an army of immortal kings sealed this entire space. The spectators from afar already guessed who these two young men were. They were none other than Qin Wentian, who was the most rumored person in the royal capital, as well as Princess Qing, who was betrothed to him by the evergreen immortal emperor. They actually encountered an assassination attempt in the royal capital. This was simply courting death. Qin Wentian similarly stared ahead, his eyes extremely cold. Very swiftly, the inescapable net was dispelled and Evergreen Yuhao was subdued. He transformed into a man of blood, his body penetrated by a divine weapon and was locked there. Princess and Sir Qin, please return to the royal palace. An immortal king came to the side of Qin Wentian and Qing, as he spoke. Qin Wentian stared at Evergreen Yuhao as he spoke. His gaze seems a little abnormal. Yes, Evergreen Yuhao might have been controlled by someone. I will bring him back to the immortal empire to be dealt with. That immortal king spoke. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with an intense coldness. Back then, when the three immortal kings chased after him, he was prepared and was able to hunt them down. However, Evergreen Yuhao launched a sneak attack. An immortal king suddenly launched a sneak attack. This was an extremely dangerous thing to do. If Evergreen Yuhao was controlled by someone, who was the one who wanted his life? That person clearly knew that ordinary immortal kings wouldn't even have a chance to get close to him. Hence, the people who controlled Evergreen Yuhao, the people of the Evergreen Kingdom, didn't take any precautions against Evergreen Yuhao. Chapter 1324. Arg. Just when Qin Wentian was contemplating, Evergreen Yuhao let out a bestial roar. His eyes gleamed with a blood-red light. Although he was bound by the chains, he still struggled, wanting to break free. The blood in his entire body seemed to be roaring as his countenance turned incomparably malevolent. Qin Wentian glanced over as he furrowed his brows. At this moment, Evergreen Yuhao's eyes gleamed with a blood-red light, as though he had entered a demonic state. Qin Wentian radiated the light of truth as his eyes gleamed resplendently, able to see through everything. He directly stared into Evergreen Yuhao's eyes. Through those eyes, he could faintly see two different wills. However, given his current cultivation base, he had no way to see through them. He had no way to see the owner of the other will, he could only see an illusory figure. A miserable scream rang out. Evergreen Yuhao's eyes bled as his entire body started to bleed, transforming into a man of blood. Those immortal kings who captured him were as cold as ever. They glanced at Evergreen Yuhao, and after that, Evergreen Yuhao let out a bestial roar as his blood flowed unceasingly. His aura grew increasingly weaker. Destroying the evidence? Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. Seems like the person who plotted to kill him wasn't simple. That person made use of the fact that the people of the Evergreen Kingdom wouldn't be on guard against Evergreen Yuhao and controlled Evergreen Yuhao to act. Firstly, it would be easier to succeed. Secondly, the mastermind didn't need to be exposed. Assassinating Qin Wentian and Qing'e in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, as long as this was exposed, the mastermind would die for sure. After cultivating to the immortal king realm, who would be willing to die so easily? There were many death warriors in the immortal realms, but those at the immortal king realm were extremely few in number. For lofty immortal kings, which one of them would be willing to die together with others? Even if their cultivation bases didn't improve, they could still become hegemons of an area and establish their own sections. Evergreen Yuhao had died. He was killed by Qin Wentian. Naturally, The mastermind must have played a part in this. Staring at the cold corpse, the countenances of the immortal king army from the Evergreen Kingdom were as cold as ever. They wouldn't care about Evergreen Yuhao's identity. They only received a single mission, and that was to protect Qin Wenyan and the princess. No matter what Evergreen Yuhao's identity was, since he had assassinated Qin Wenyan, his fate was already sealed. Even if the Evergreen Immortal Emperor couldn't bear to kill him because of their past relationship, he would never be able to climb up again. Princess, young Master Qin, let's return to the palace. The immortal king beside Qin Wenyan continued. Although there wouldn't be any accidents in the royal capital, they still had to be careful. What if someone went crazy? Let's go. Qin Wenyan took Qing Er's hand. Your injuries? Qing Er stared at Qin Wenyan, whose robes were dyed red with blood. My bloodline recovery ability is very strong. It's not like you don't know this. Qin Wenyan smiled. His injuries weren't light, but this wasn't the time to be calculative about this. The group of them stood up and returned to the palace. In the surroundings, there were countless people rushing over, their eyes gleaming as they stared at the departing figures. That should be Princess and Qin Wenyan, right? They are truly a pair of immortal companions. Princess Qing is just like the rumors, an icy beauty. Qin Wenyan is truly powerful, surviving the assassination attempt of an immortal king. Although he was injured, he acted as though nothing had happened to him. That's right, it was a sneak attack by someone familiar. Evergreen Yuhao. His surname is Evergreen. Everyone should be able to guess his identity. Those guards didn't even guard against him. Since Qin Wenyan didn't die, it can only be said that his combat prowess is extremely terrifying. Most probably, no one in the Immortal Foundation realm would be stronger than him. The people here were discussing fervently. Behind the crowd, an old man in ragged clothes slowly squeezed his way out. His body was stooped, and he raised his head to look at the silhouette in the distance. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he cursed in a low voice, "Trash." Although it seemed like a simple and violent assassination attempt, he had made meticulous preparations for a very long time. If not, how would he be able to see through Evergreen Yuhao's heart and grasp the opportunity when he and Qin Wenyan both left the royal palace? For this opportunity he had waited for 2 months, all for the sake of this one strike. Naturally, 2 months to him couldn't be considered much. Once, in order to kill someone, he had to wait at most 800 years before he found an extremely rare opportunity to do so. What made him infuriated was that even with such an opportunity, he actually failed to kill Qin Wenyan. One could only say that Evergreen Yuhao was trash. If he was the one acting, a single strike would be sufficient. But leaving aside whether he could get close to Qin Wenyan, even if he could conceal his aura, the moment he acted, he would most probably die in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom. He didn't wish to perish together with an Immortal Foundation brat. Now, he could only wait for other opportunities. However, if he missed this opportunity, it would be even more difficult to assassinate Qin Wenyan in the future. Qin Wenyan and Qing'er returned to the royal palace. Upon learning that Qin Wenyan was assassinated, the entire royal palace was shaken. There was actually someone who dared to act in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom? Simply audacious. This was simply a provocation to the prestige of the Evergreen Kingdom. I will go look for father. Qing'er spoke in a cold voice the moment she returned to the royal palace. If it was any other matter, she could forget about it. But since Qin Wenyan was assassinated, she wouldn't let this matter rest. Evergreen Yuhao was merely a scapegoat. She had to find the mastermind behind this. Before this, when Qin Wenyan was assassinated, her heart seemed to have stopped beating. She would never allow such a thing to happen again. Qin Wenyan knew how sexy Qing'er was and didn't stop her. He returned to Princess Changping's residence only to see Princess Changping and the Scarlet Eye Marquis walking over. Staring at his blood-stained robes, the Scarlet Eye Marquis coldly asked, "Was it really done by Evergreen Yuhao?" Before this, Evergreen Yuhao had already injured Qin Wenyan in the formation. Who would have thought that he would be so brazen as to assassinate Qin Wenyan? But there's someone behind this. Evergreen Yuhao seems to be under the control of someone. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with coldness. How can it be so easy to control someone at the immortal king realm? His heart must be evil and he had such thoughts. That's why someone could take advantage of this and control his mind. The Scarlet Eye Marquis coldly spoke. This fellow really thinks that his father died in battle for His Majesty. His Majesty didn't announce it because he wanted to save face. Who would have thought that this actually caused him to have wild ambitions? Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. Could it be that there was more to what the Scarlet Eye Marquis said to him earlier? Wentian, this is a secret of our empire. Only an extremely few people know about this. Back then, His Majesty gave the order that no one is allowed to speak of this. Before this, Evergreen Yuhao's father did indeed fight for His Majesty, but after the situation changed, he betrayed the empire and was discovered by the White Emperor. The White Emperor then plotted to destroy Evergreen Yuhao, but because His Majesty wanted to thank him for everything he had done, he gave him the title of Died in Battle and treated Evergreen Yuhao quite well. As expected, like father like son. The Scarlet Eye Marquis coldly spoke. Only now did Qin Wentian understand. No wonder the Scarlet Eye Marquis was so unhappy with Evergreen Yuhao before this. So there was actually another layer of reason. There were many things that weren't as simple as they seemed to be. Wentian, who do you think the mastermind is? Princess Chongping asked. Who else can it be? Naturally, it's those people who initiated the adjudication but failed in the end. Using such a method, we have no way to find out which major power is the mastermind behind this. Hence, it's hard for us to take revenge. Qin Wentian coldly spoke. Other than those major powers, who would be so crazy as to send powerful experts to the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom just to kill him, an immortal foundation cultivator? Also, the main target was him. They had no killing intent towards Qing'er. Seems like there's no mistake. Princess Chongping nodded lightly. Those people acted in the dark. How could the Evergreen Kingdom deal with all the major powers who participated in the adjudication? As long as the other party didn't reveal who the mastermind was, the Evergreen Kingdom could only accept it. Rumble! At this moment, the bodies of Princess Chongping and Qin Wentian trembled. Their eyes flickered, and after that, the earth started to tremble unceasingly. In addition, the tremors grew more and more intense. What's going on? The eyes of the few of them gleamed with sharpness. The entire residence was trembling. No, not only the residence, the entire royal palace was trembling, and this trembling grew increasingly intense. Boom! A deafening sound rang out. After that, beams of green light shot up into the sky. Qin Wentian and the others inclined their heads and stared in the direction of the Emperor Palace. In an instant, their eyes froze as they stared in shock at the towering ancient tree. This. Princess Chongping and the Scarlet Eye Marquis were also stunned. That ancient tree instantly broke through the ground, shooting up into the sky. Its terrifying trunk directly soared up, blotting out the sun. Beams of green light instantly enveloped the entire royal palace. Eternal Evergreen Tree. Qin Wentian mumbled. This ancient tree was none other than the ancient tree that accompanied Chongqing the Great when the various immortal emperors descended upon the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. At this moment, this towering ancient tree appeared once again. Within the royal palace, the silhouettes of the experts flickered as they floated in the air. They were enveloped by the ancient tree, and all of them had looks of shock in their eyes. The Evergreen Tree would only appear when the Evergreen Immortal Empire was in danger. At this moment, there seemed to be no one threatening the Evergreen Kingdom. Why did the ancient tree suddenly appear? The speed of the Evergreen Tree's expansion had reached a terrifying degree, unceasingly enveloping the entire royal palace. Even ordinary immortal emperors wouldn't be able to match the speed of the Evergreen Tree. The experts of the Evergreen Kingdom Palace once again witnessed the magnificence of the Evergreen Tree. They inclined their heads as their hearts trembled. What was going on? Chongqing the Great's silhouette appeared in the airspace above the Emperor Palace, right before the trunk of the Evergreen Tree. Great Emperor! The experts stared at the Evergreen Immortal Emperor with bewilderment in their eyes. This city is the royal capital of my empire. If someone dares to wantonly assassinate my daughter and son-in-law in this city, would there still be a day of peace for my evergreen kingdom? The Chongqing the Great calmly spoke. No matter who it is, no matter how many people participated in this assassination attempt, as long as they are in the royal capital, they must die. His voice reverberated throughout the royal palace, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble. The evergreen immortal emperor summoned the evergreen tree because of the assassination attempt on Qin Wenyan. At this instant, Qin Wentian's status in the hearts of many experts rose immensely. In fact, they were treating him as a descendant of the evergreen immortal emperor. Chapter 1325. The eternal evergreen tree was a supreme treasure of the evergreen kingdom. It wouldn't be used unless there was a war. But now, because of an assassination attempt, it was summoned by the Chongqing the Great. From this, one could very well imagine how important Qin Wenyan was in the heart of the Chongqing the Great. Naturally, there might be another layer of reason. Just like what the Evergreen Great said, even his daughter and son-in-law were assassinated in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom. If he didn't find the culprit, wouldn't everyone dare to cause trouble in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom in the future? Even if the culprit was hiding in the shadows, the Chongqing the Great still wanted him dead. No matter who it was, no matter how many people participated in this assassination attempt, as long as they were in the royal capital, they must be killed. In the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, countless people inclined their heads, staring at the towering ancient tree. The vast majority of them still had no idea what was going on. They thought that another immortal emperor had invaded the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom. The speed at which the eternal evergreen tree expanded was simply too terrifying. In the blink of an eye, it had already reached the location where Qin Wenyan was assassinated. The experts there knew what was going on as their hearts trembled. The Chongqing the Great actually used the eternal evergreen tree to capture the mastermind? In just an instant, the eternal evergreen tree directly streaked past, covering the entire sky as it continued to extend outwards. Below, a hunchbacked old man abruptly inclined his head. His eyes flashed with a terrifying sharpness. He didn't look old at all. At the next instant, his body trembled slightly. Was the Chongqing the Great crazy? He actually used the eternal evergreen tree for a failed assassination attempt? What was he trying to do? He had lived for countless years and had assassinated countless experts. Even for immortal kings, he had almost never failed. Even if he failed, he would always be able to escape unscathed. As a powerful assassin, he had always felt that completing the mission wasn't the most important thing. Preserving his life would always be the most important. No matter what, he had to ensure his own safety, even if the mission failed. But looking at the gigantic eternal everlasting evergreen tree, he felt a tinge of fear. The Chongqing the Great was determined to find out who the mastermind was. Even though he had a glorious past, he still couldn't help but feel terrified when facing someone like the Chongqing the Great. He wanted to escape the imperial city of the Evergreen Kingdom. However, when he saw the eternal evergreen tree expanding crazily, he understood that if he tried to escape now, he would be seeking his own death. Soon, the vast and boundless imperial city of the Evergreen Kingdom was enveloped by the eternal evergreen tree. Endless green lights sprinkled down, and countless experts raised their heads to look at the void, not knowing what was happening. "I am the Evergreen Emperor." A voice suddenly rang out from the eternal evergreen tree. Everyone in the imperial city could hear this voice. This was none other than the Chongqing the Great speaking. "Several months ago, I betrothed my beloved daughter, Qingye, to Qin Wenyan. But today, in the imperial city of my Evergreen Kingdom, my daughter and son-in-law were assassinated." The voice of the Chongqing the Great rang out, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble. They finally understood the reason. Princess Qingye and Qin Wenyan, did something happen to them? Luckily, they are fine. The Chongqing the Great continued, "However, the mastermind is still in hiding. In the imperial city of my Evergreen Kingdom, in my territory, there's actually someone who dared to assassinate my daughter and son-in-law right under my eyes. let alone the other people in the city. Everyone nodded. They naturally understood why the Chongqing the Great was so angry. Assassinating his daughter and son-in-law right under his eyes, wasn't this a slap to the face of the Chongqing the Great? If the assassination really succeeded, wouldn't the Chongqing the Great and the Evergreen Kingdom become a joke? Hence, I hope that everyone in the Imperial City can cooperate with me. All experts at the Immortal King realm and above are to gather in my royal palace. We will investigate them one by one until we find the mastermind. The Chongqing the Great commanded, everyone should be able to understand my intentions. If I discover any immortal kings who didn't come to the royal palace, they will be treated as the assassins. As the sound of his voice faded, the entire imperial city trembled. The Evergreen Emperor gave the order to gather all the experts in the imperial city, making it impossible for the mastermind to escape even if he had wings. Right now, the entire imperial city was sealed by the eternal evergreen tree. No one would be able to escape. As long as someone wanted to flee, the Chongqing the Great would instantly know and kill them. Who would dare to flee? It's our honor to be able to pay our respects to the evergreen tree. An immortal king spoke as he stepped out. To think that we would have the chance to witness the magnificence of the evergreen tree. We will naturally head there. In the imperial city of the Evergreen Kingdom, the immortal kings spoke one after another. After that, they stepped out and moved towards the royal palace. The Chongqing the Great was the ruler of the imperial city. Also, there was a reason for everything to happen. Everyone would naturally follow his orders. In an instant, countless immortal kings soared through the air, causing the entire capital to tremble. There were so many experts here, and all of them were immortal kings. This place was as expected of the royal capital of the Immortal Empire, the most prosperous and powerful place in the world. At this moment, within the royal palace, the nobility was shaken. Qin Wenyan himself was also incomparably shocked. Because of a single assassination attempt, the Evergreen Emperor was enraged. He activated the eternal evergreen tree and sealed the entire imperial city, ordering all the immortal kings to gather in the royal palace. Clearly, no one expected the reaction of the Evergreen Emperor would be so intense. The army moved out, preparing to maintain order. The Chongqing the Great's body seemed to have fused into the eternal evergreen tree. He controlled the evergreen tree, becoming one with the tree. The evergreen tree enveloped the entire imperial city and was like his eyes. At this moment, he could clearly see the movements of the entire imperial city. Numerous immortal kings gathered in the direction of the royal palace. They were summoned to a large public square by the army there. These people inclined their heads and stared at the sky. The body of the Evergreen Emperor had fused into the ancient tree, exuding an unmatched magnificence. All of them bowed and greeted, "We pay our respects to the Evergreen Emperor." To the people of the Evergreen Immortal Empire, the Chongqing the Great was a supreme existence, a saint in their hearts. Even if this incident didn't happen, they had always hoped to be able to personally witness the glory of the Evergreen Emperor. Today, it could be said that their wish was finally fulfilled. Within the imperial city, that stooped old man was still hiding himself, like an ordinary old man. He didn't dare to reveal his aura and didn't dare to head to the royal palace. He was very clear that not only was there the Chongqing the Great in the royal palace, there was also the White Emperor. With the two of them present, no matter how well he hid himself, he would definitely be discovered. In addition, as an assassin, he naturally heard of how powerful the supreme guardian treasure of the Evergreen Kingdom was. Right now, he didn't know whether he should move or not. He was thinking in his heart that he had roamed the immortal realms unhindered, killing countless people. But now, was he going to fall here in the royal palace? 2 hours later, there were already many experts arriving at the royal palace. However, the Chongqing the Great didn't bother to investigate them. Instead, he spoke, "If there are still immortal kings who have yet to come to the royal palace, I will personally invite all of you over." His voice was transmitted through the evergreen tree. Everyone in the royal palace could hear it. Who would dare to disobey his command? This place was the royal palace. The Chongqing the Great ruled everything under the heavens. Who would dare to disobey him? Very swiftly, more and more immortal kings gathered in the royal palace. Only when there was no one left in the air did the Chongqing the Great continue. Everyone in the royal palace, stand at your original location. As the sound of his voice rang out, the entire imperial city trembled. Following which, countless branches of the everlasting evergreen tree swayed and swept downwards. Rays of green light shot out from the branches, aiming for the crowd. Everyone, regardless of young or old, regardless of their cultivation bases, were all bound by the branches of the evergreen tree. Nobody dared to resist the Chongqing the Great. These branches were like the eyes of the Chongqing the Great, monitoring everything in the royal palace. Nobody dared to move recklessly. The jade-green branches transformed into motes of light, slowly seeping into the bodies of the crowd. The crowd watched nervously, allowing the motes of light to seep into their bodies. However, at this moment, there were also people who started trembling. An example was a middle-aged immortal king. He was extremely nervous, and just when the motes of light entered his body, he suddenly spoke in a loud voice, "Your Majesty, please forgive me. I have no intention of concealing my cultivation base. I will head to the royal palace now." He didn't expect that the evergreen tree would have such a miraculous effect. As the sound of his voice faded, rustling sounds rang out as beams of light cascaded downwards. Boundless evergreen vines coiled around his body, instantly engulfing him within the void. After which, the vines rapidly moved towards the direction of the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. In another direction, the sloppy-looking old man suddenly started to panic. He had always thought that his concealment abilities were extremely strong. But when the jade-green light seeped into his body, sensing the energy within his body, he finally understood how terrifying the supreme treasure of the Evergreen Kingdom, the Evergreen Tree, was. Boom! His body soared up into the air. At this instant, a terrifying might erupted forth from him. His hunched back instantly straightened as he fled into the distance. Numerous jade-green vines slashed down from the sky, instantly sealing off all his escape routes. Following which, countless vines swept over, sealing off the entire space in an instant. The sloppy old man's body finally began to tremble in fear. Immortal emperors, were they really so easy to antagonize? This was especially so for the Chongqing the Great, the evergreen immortal emperor. Was it really that fun to assassinate his son-in-law? Very swiftly, his body was dragged towards the direction of the evergreen immortal empire. Not only him and that old man from before, there were actually over 10 immortal kings who were proficient in concealment within the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. At this instant, all of them were exposed without exception, and were dragged towards the palace by the evergreen tree. Very swiftly, these 10+ people appeared within the palace. They were bound by the vines, and their bodies seemed to have been penetrated by the energy of the evergreen tree. They appeared extremely weak, and were like criminals being dragged in the air by the vines. Right above the public square where all the immortal kings were gathered, countless immortal kings inclined their heads and stared at these figures, silently praising the evergreen immortal emperor for doing what he said. For those who didn't move, the evergreen immortal emperor personally acted to capture them. Qin Wenyan also arrived here. He inclined his head and stared at the 10+ figures in the air as his eyes gleamed with sharpness. There were so many people behind the scenes. Chapter 1326. The silhouette of the Chongqing the Great flickered as he appeared before those tied-up experts, personally interrogating them. You guys better explain yourselves clearly. If not, you should know the consequences. These people all had ashen expressions, knowing that it was impossible for them to survive. Some of them were silently cursing, wondering who it was exactly that assassinated Qin Wenyan and Qing'e, causing all of them to be dragged out. After entering the royal palace, they knew that they wouldn't be able to escape. Hence, they harbored a sliver of hope and didn't dare to take the initiative to approach. But who would have thought that under the evergreen tree, their concealment techniques would be so easily seen through? Although the evergreen emperor was in the royal palace, he could sense everything. The cultivation bases of everyone in the royal palace couldn't be hidden from him. Your Majesty, please spare our lives. I'm someone from the Dongshangshan Gate and was only ordered to guard the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom. I've never done anything that would harm the reputation of the Evergreen Kingdom. It's only because I was worried that your majesty might misunderstand, I didn't dare to come to the royal palace myself. I beg for your majesty's forgiveness. Everyone instantly understood that he was a spy arranged by the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor to infiltrate the royal palace of the Evergreen Immortal Empire. Such a matter was very common. It was common for the various major powers to do so. This was especially so during this sensitive period of time. It was just that no one expected the Evergreen Immortal Emperor to be so enraged that he would flip the entire royal palace upside down. The Chongqing the Great coldly glanced at him. After that, he turned to the others and asked, "Who is the mastermind?" As the sound of his voice faded, everyone could feel the coldness radiating from the Evergreen Emperor. "If I'm willing to tell you who the mastermind is, would your majesty spare my life?" At this moment, a voice drifted over. It was none other than the sloppy-looking old man. He knew that it was impossible for him to escape. Right now, he could only hope that he could preserve his life. As an assassin, survival was the #1 priority. Right now, he had to think of a way to preserve his life. The Chongqing the Great glanced at him coldly. With a wave of his hand, an expert walked out from the direction of the Immortal Empire. The eyes of this expert were extremely terrifying, and it was clear with a single glance that he was proficient in some unique arts. The sloppy-looking old man turned as pale as paper. He instantly guessed what the expert of this expert was. The vines on his body frenziedly drilled into his body, destroying everything within. The sloppy-looking old man screamed in agony, "Great Emperor, please spare me. If you cooperate, I can spare your life." A powerful immortal king beside Chongqing the Great stepped out. His eyes gleamed with a demonic light as he tried to corrode the mind of the sloppy old man. The sloppy old man screamed unceasingly. He could resist with his life, but not everyone would be willing to die. Amidst the screams, the immortal king beside Chongqing the Great obtained the information he wanted to know. The demonic glint in his eyes disappeared. He took a step back and said to the Chongqing the Great, "Your Majesty, the mastermind intentionally hid his identity. He himself does not know who the mastermind is." The eyes of the Chongqing the Great flashed. In that case, he wouldn't be able to find the mastermind. Swishing sounds rang out. After the vines crippled the sloppy-looking old man, they dragged him to a faraway location and tossed him out of the royal capital. The consequences for a powerful immortal king was extremely tragic. "Your Majesty, these people might know something." That immortal king spoke to the Chongqing the Great, his words causing the expressions of these people to change, all of them turning pale. Since the mastermind is so cautious, he wouldn't leave any flaws. These people are only here to monitor the situation, they wouldn't know anything else. The Evergreen Immortal Emperor calmly spoke. After that, swishing sounds rang out once more as the vines directly dragged those immortal kings into the trunk of the ancient evergreen tree, swallowing them whole. Numerous screams of misery rang out as those 10+ immortal kings directly vanished from this world, killed by the vines. This scene caused the hearts of the immortal kings in the public square to tremble. This was the prestige of a great emperor. That sloppy-looking old man who was crippled and tossed out, or these people who were killed, who was more miserable? Most probably, nobody could say for sure. But clearly, this time around, everyone in the eastern regions had witnessed the fury of the great emperor. From now on, no one would dare to cause trouble in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom. That was simply courting death. The Chongqing the Great waved his hand. Instantly, the evergreen tree moved, emitting swishing sounds. In this boundlessly vast royal capital, the leaves and branches of the evergreen tree frenziedly retracted. Not long after, it transformed back into an ancient tree and sank into the ground. The towering ancient tree vanished, as though nothing had happened at all. The Chongqing the Great spoke to the immortal kings in the public square. "I've troubled all of you to make a trip here. Your Majesty is too polite. To be able to personally witness the might of a great emperor, it's the fortune of 3 lifetimes." The immortal kings all bowed, extremely polite. Although they could be considered experts of an area, the person before them was the ruler of an immortal empire. Everyone can return to your places. The Chongqing the Great calmly spoke. After that, the immortal kings all bowed and retreated. After that, their silhouettes flickered as they left the royal palace. The eyes of the Chongqing the Great gleamed with sharpness as he stared at the silhouettes of these immortal kings. He knew that among these immortal kings, there would definitely be people from the other major powers present. It was impossible for the major powers of the eastern regions to only have 10 or so people stationed in the royal capital. It was just that if these people didn't do anything, he couldn't be bothered to drag them all out. After all, this was a rule that the major powers abided by. His men were also stationed there. Today, he had already achieved his goal of intimidating these immortal kings. If they wanted to cause trouble in the royal capital, they would have to pay the price. You guys can leave as well. The Chongqing the Great waved his hands as the immortal kings of the eastern regions all retreated. However, all of them felt some emotions in their hearts. Ever since the civil war that year, everyone felt that the Evergreen Kingdom was a pushover. Just a mere immortal king actually dared to come to the royal capital to assassinate the Evergreen Kingdom. Today, the anger of the Evergreen Emperor had truly taught the people of the eastern regions a lesson on how to conduct themselves. However, this time around, the anger of the Evergreen Emperor was because of Qin Wenin. Before the immortal kings left, all of them cast a deep glance at Qin Wenin. For some unknown reason, an extremely ridiculous thought appeared in their hearts. Given his outstanding talent, if he continued to grow, he would surely reach a shocking height, even surpassing the descendants of the Evergreen Emperor. In that case, the future successor of the Evergreen Kingdom wouldn't be the prince consort of the Evergreen Immortal Empire, right? When they thought of this, their hearts trembled, not daring to think too deeply. They only remembered that they had to treat Qin Wenin the same way they would treat a prince consort in the future. It was unknown when Qing'er appeared beside Qin Wenin. She lightly held onto Qin Wentian's hand. Qing'er, Wenin, follow me. The Chongqing the Great spoke to Qing'er and Qin Wenin. After that, he stepped out and walked towards the Emperor Palace. Qin Wentian and Wentian nodded. They followed behind the Chongqing the Great and entered the residence of the Chongqing the Great. The Chongqing the Great walked towards the pavilion by the lake, his back facing Qin Wentian and Qing'er. Qing'er, Wentian, what do the two of you think about the marriage? The Chongqing the Great asked. Qin Wentian and Qing'er exchanged mutual glances. Before this, Qing'er joked with Qin Wentian, asking if they could do it twice. However, when the Chongqing the Great asked, it was impossible for them to reply in such a manner. Your Majesty, what do you think? Qin Wentian consulted. This matter was a major matter to Qing'er. The Chongqing the Great's opinion was naturally extremely important. I've announced to the world that I've betrothed Qing'er to you. This matter is already set in stone. Right now, the major powers of the eastern regions are all eyeing the two of you. I have a premonition that if the two of you hold the wedding, things wouldn't be peaceful. The Chongqing the Great calmly spoke. As immortal emperors, their instincts were naturally much sharper compared to ordinary people. In addition, even Qin Wentian had the same intuition as the Chongqing the Great. Even before their wedding, the other party already couldn't control themselves and sent assassins, wanting to kill Qin Wentian. Although no one knew who the assassins were, everyone could guess that it had something to do with those major powers. Wentian, the you now is still too weak. The Chongqing the Great spoke again. Qin Wentian fell silent. He knew that Chongqing the Great was speaking the truth. The peak level of Immortal Foundation was already considered extremely powerful to ordinary people. But if he had to face the major powers of the Immortal Realms, he would naturally be very weak. Chongqing Yuhao's assassination attempt almost took his life. Hence, I hope that after you break through to the Immortal King realm, I will allow the two of you to get married. Although you won't be able to control the situation after that, at the very least, you would have some strength to protect yourself and wouldn't end up in such a miserable state. The Chongqing the Great continued. Qin Wentian nodded. I'll listen to your Majesty's arrangements. It's good that you can understand. Right now, I can also be considered a true elder of yours. I'm naturally doing this for your own good. The Chongqing the Great turned and stared at Qin Wenin. Right now, your cultivation base has already reached the peak level of Immortal Foundation. At this level, it's very hard for you to find an opponent. Hence, before this, I sent Immortal Kings to spar with you. But that was merely sparring, there's no pressure. You still have to walk out on your own. If not, even if you have already taken a step out, I don't know how many years it would take for you to reach the shore. Qing, it's the same for you as well. You are an innate immortal king and have innate talent in spatial energy. In the future, this threshold would be weaker for you, but you still have to work hard to raise your cultivation base. You should temporarily set aside your emotions and focus on your cultivation. Wenyan wants to break through to the immortal king realm, you as well. The Chongqing the Great seriously spoke. He naturally hoped that his daughter and son-in-law would be strong enough to handle all the changes in the future. Although the immortal realms seemed calm on the surface, once a storm arose, it would definitely shake the heavens and earth. Just like this time around, if they lost the adjudication battle, there would definitely be a storm of blood. But now, their victory merely delayed the storm. Oh! Qin calmly replied, as though she wasn't happy. When the Chongqing the Great saw her expression, he couldn't help but to sigh in his heart. This lass's emotions were too deep. Wenyan, you should have seen the assassination attempt this time around. Countless eyes are staring at you. If you want to head out to temper yourself, you can't let others know of this. Also, it's best if you don't head to the eastern regions. Think about where you want to head to. There's a teleportation array here that leads to the Namhuang clan. If you are willing, you can use the Namhuang clan as a middleman. The Chongqing the Great spoke. I plan to make a trip back to the immortal Qianbian Gate first. Qin Wendian replied, as though he had his own thoughts. He was preparing to head to the Heavenly Talisman realm. If he could meet with Senior, he would ask Senior to send him to the other regions through the Heavenly Talisman realm. Chapter 1327. Chongqing the Great naturally wouldn't influence Qin Wentian's thoughts. Right now, the Evergreen Kingdom Palace also had a teleportation array that led directly to the immortal Qianbian Gate. Qin Wenyan reluctantly parted ways with Qina and returned to the immortal Qianbian Gate. Immortal Qianbian Gate, in Qin Wentian's residence, after spending a day with his family, Qin Wentian, Mo Qingqing, Purgatory and Little Rascal were together. Qin Wendian spoke, I'm preparing to enter closed-door seclusion. I'm not sure how long it will take, but it might take a very long time. I will only exit seclusion after I break through to the immortal king realm. I've only returned for a few months and I'm already in closed-door seclusion again. How boring. Little Rascal spoke in a baby voice. Don't be idle. I've already requested the Taishan Immortal King. After I enter closed-door seclusion, someone will bring you and Purgatory to the desolate mountain range in the northern regions. You have to take good care of Purgatory for me. Qin Wenyan rapped Little Rascal on its head. Little Rascal instantly leaped up and glared at Qin Wenyan. The legendary desolate 10,000 mountain range, the world of demonic beasts? Can you bear to send me to such a cruel place? I can. Qin Wendian impolitely nodded. Qingqing. Little Rascal stared at Mo Qingqing with a look of grievance, pleading for help. Little Rascal, you are too lazy. Don't waste your talent. The desolate 10,000 mountain range is a paradise for demonic beasts. Maybe, you might be able to meet your kind there. Mo Qingqing smiled. Hell for demonic beasts. Little Rascal's lips twitched as he stared at Qin Wendian and Mo Qingqing, feeling wronged. In truth, Qin Wendian also couldn't bear to do this. However, he had never treated Little Rascal and Purgatory as his pets. Although they were demonic beasts, they still needed to have their own world. In that case, they had to go out and roam the world. Now that their cultivation bases weren't low, no matter how he thought about it, the desolate 10,000 mountain range was the most suitable place for them. Remember to protect Purgatory. Otherwise, I'll settle the score with you. Qin Wenyan knocked on the little fellow's head. Oh, little Purgatory, be good. You have to listen to me more. Little Rascal leaped onto Purgatory's shoulder and stretched out his paws, gently stroking Purgatory's hair. This caused Purgatory to roll her eyes as a look of disdain appeared on her face. "Go ahead." Qin Wendian smiled at his two companions. Purgatory nodded her head lightly and brought Little Rascal away. Mo Qingqing leaned on Qin Wendian and spoke in a gentle voice. "His Majesty has already betrothed elder sister Qin, or do you? Have you decided on the date of the wedding?" "This time around, I'm in seclusion precisely for this matter. I encountered some troubles in the Evergreen Kingdom. The powers that lost the adjudication battle are still unwilling to give up. I'll wait until I break through to the Immortal King realm before discussing the wedding." Qin Wendian spoke in a light voice. "Qingqing, this time around, I've also asked the Emperor Lord to make some arrangements for you. I want to send you under the tutelage of an immortal emperor for cultivation. You won't blame me, right? I'll listen to you." Mo Qingqing smiled. Qingqing, since you can enter the Tiandao Sacred Academy, your talent is already very impressive. You have to work hard in your cultivation and catch up to me in the future." Qin Wendian pulled Qingqing into his embrace. His so-called seclusion naturally meant that he would directly head to the Heavenly Talisman realm. The Heavenly Talisman realm had its own rules and no one was allowed to divulge any information. If he were to enter seclusion, it would undoubtedly be the safest. No one would discover him and Qingqing wouldn't need to worry about him. As for sending Qingqing to cultivate there, he had always thought about it. It's just that in the past, Qingqing's talent was on the weaker side. Even if an immortal king were to guide her, there wouldn't be too much of a problem. Now that Qingqing had experience in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, there shouldn't be too much of a problem if she was sent under the tutelage of an immortal emperor. Not only so, this time around he would also send Sis Luo Huan, Sis Qin Yao and the others to various places to cultivate. The war between the Dongshengshan Gate and the immortal Qianbian Gate had never ceased. Back then, there was even the incident of Qin Yao and Luo Huan encountering danger. Even the Cloud Prefecture city wasn't absolutely safe. It would be too boring to let them stay in the immortal sect forever. Also, even if their talent was weaker, they still needed to raise their cultivation bases or they would age easily. As for himself, if there weren't any major incidents, Qin Wendian didn't intend to return before he broke through to the Immortal King realm. This was his determination. After several days of gathering, the immortal Qianbian Gate sent Qin Wendian's family and friends to various places to cultivate. Little Rascal and Purgatory also left, being sent to the desolate 10,000 mountain range in the extreme north of the immortal realms. Qingqing also left. Although she was reluctant, she left with a smile on her face. She knew that it was time for her to focus on her cultivation. She also understood that Qin Wendian's future lay in the vast starry space. There was no need for her to become so strong, but at the very least, she mustn't fall too far behind. Qin Wendian finally set his heart at ease and entered closed-door seclusion. After that, he used a secret art to open up an entrance to the Heavenly Talisman realm and entered alone. Within the Heavenly Talisman realm, there were green mountains and clear waters, like an otherworldly immortal realm. Qin Wendian drew in a deep breath as a smile appeared on his face. It has been a very long time since he came to the Heavenly Talisman realm. Back then when he entered the Heavenly Talisman realm, he had yet to become an immortal. Now, he was already at the peak stage of immortal foundation. However, there were many immortal emperors and immortal kings in the Heavenly Talisman realm. There was naturally nothing for him to be proud of. His silhouette flickered as Qin Wendian continued on his way. Along the way, there were many experts flying through the air. Occasionally, there would be people who would nod their heads at Qin Wendian and Qin Wendian would naturally return the gesture with a smile. Qin Wendian directly came before the gigantic statue of the Heavenly Talisman Realm Lord. Staring at the gigantic statue, Qin Wendian spoke in a light voice. "Master, I've encountered a bottleneck in my cultivation this time around. I have no idea when I would be able to break through to the Immortal King realm. I hope that I would be able to receive some guidance from Master." After speaking, Qin Wenqian's silhouette flickered as he flew towards the Heavenly Talisman Palace in the hands of the statue. Just so coincidentally, there was no one in the Heavenly Talisman Palace, hence, Qin Wenqian directly entered. Within the Heavenly Talisman Palace, Qin Wenqian walked to the central area and sat down cross-legged. Golden light illuminated the sky as a painting appeared. Boundless runic light cascaded down on Qin Wenqian, bathing him within. Within the Heavenly Talisman Palace, there was the Heavenly Talisman Treasured Tome. This was a sacred cultivation treasure left behind by his master, the Heavenly Talisman Realm Lord. It was all-encompassing and different cultivation bases would be able to gain different insights. Qin Wenqian's aura gushed forth as his perfect saint-grade immortal foundation gushed forth. Law energy permeated the air. Instantly, his surroundings were filled with the energy he cultivated. Instantly, beams of runic light gushed into Qin Wenqian's sea of consciousness. He quietly closed his eyes as he absorbed everything. This was the second time Qin Wenqian cultivated in the Heavenly Talisman Palace. The Heavenly Talisman Treasured Tome was about the great Tao of runes. It believed that everything in the world was born from runic inscriptions. Astral energy and runic inscriptions were the foundation of cultivation, while runic inscriptions could aid one's astral energy to communicate with the heavens and earth. This was the law language of the great Tao. This time around, the treasured tome that was imprinted in Qin Wenqian's sea of consciousness caused him to have a brand new comprehension. He was completely immersed in it, unable to extricate himself from it. The Heavenly Talisman Treasured Tome dissected the great Tao of cultivation from the very basics, causing one to feel that the great Tao was the simplest. It was very easy to accept. For example, when astral energy and the law language runic inscriptions fused together to a certain degree, one would be able to unleash law energy. As for astral souls, stellar martial cultivators had different law attributes. Hence, the laws they created would also be different. However, when cultivators cultivate, they wouldn't try to comprehend the innate nature of cultivation. They would cultivate with the flow of nature instead. This was like a child learning how to speak. He didn't learn the language, but after listening to it, he would naturally be able to speak. Although there seemed to be no difference, only by truly learning the language would one be able to comprehend the deeper meaning behind it. Hence, understanding the innate nature of cultivation was naturally beneficial to one's cultivation. This was especially so when one reached Qin Wenqian's current cultivation realm. In the future, the reliance on one's comprehension abilities would only grow stronger. In that case, what was the Immortal King Realm? How could one break through to the Immortal King Realm? Maybe, everyone who broke through to the Immortal King Realm would have a different path. They would use different methods and different insights to break through. But there was one point that was the same for all of them. That was to perfect their law domains and form a perfect body of laws. But if that was the case, how could one achieve all of this? The Heavenly Talisman Treasured Tome didn't tell Qin Wenqian anything. In fact, it was completely cut off. This was an important step on the path of cultivation, and one had to depend on oneself to cross it. Although both of them were at the Immortal King Realm, the disparity between them would be extremely great. This was because everyone's astral souls were different and their law attributes were different. Everyone's path of comprehending law energy was different as well. The power of the innate techniques born from each of them would differ greatly as well. If not, why would Bai Wuya be able to suppress all the immortal kings in the particle world when they were all at the Immortal King Realm? On what basis did he slay Deep Flame in a single battle, not even giving his opponent the chance to flee? Qin Wenqian quietly contemplated in the Heavenly Talisman Palace for several months. He didn't use the innate treasure tome to comprehend the innate techniques, but was purely focused on comprehending his cultivation base. His current goal was only to step into the Immortal King Realm. Today, Qin Wenqian walked out of the Heavenly Talisman Palace. Outside the palace, there was an expert quietly sitting there with his eyes closed in cultivation. As though he sensed something, he opened his eyes and stared at Qin Wenqian. "Senior brother." Qin Wenqian nodded to this person. A newly joined junior brother? The disciples of the Heavenly Talisman realm weren't familiar with each other. Hence, this person asked, I've already joined for many years and right now I'm stuck at the peak of Immortal Foundation, searching for an opportunity to break through. Qin Wendian smiled. Junior brother wishes to head out to temper myself. Does senior brother know of any suitable locations? So this is the case. The immortal realms are boundlessly vast and there are plenty of good fortune there. Everything depends on your luck and there's no way to say which location is the most suitable. Just follow your heart. That person laughed. Many thanks, senior brother. It's just that junior brother opened the entrance to the heavenly talisman realm from the eastern regions. If I exit this place, I can only return to where I came from. However, junior brother wishes to head to the northern regions. Does senior brother know of any places where I can find a senior brother to bring me out? Qin Wendian humbly spoke. The rules of the heavenly talisman realm were as such. Since he opened the entrance to the heavenly talisman realm from the eastern regions, he could only return to where he came from. There was no way for him to exit the heavenly talisman realm from the other entrances unless he followed someone else out. There are many fellow apprentices staying in that direction and they would occasionally exchange information. You can go there to seek help. That immortal king pointed to a direction. Qin Wendian nodded. Many thanks, senior brother. After speaking, he bid his farewell. Although it has been many years since he entered the heavenly talisman realm, he was still unfamiliar with it. Chapter 1328. Qin Wendian followed the direction pointed out by that senior brother and as expected, he came to a place where many residences could be seen. There were many residences here and they were all closely connected. Also, there were actually many senior brothers and sisters here. Some were cultivating, some were playing chess, and there were even some who were chatting idly. Seems like the heavenly talisman realm was the same as well. There were all kinds of characters here. Although the disciples of the heavenly talisman realm didn't interfere with each other, there were still some who liked to gather together for small gatherings. In the heavenly talisman realm, they were all senior and junior brothers. In the outside world, they were just ordinary friends or even strangers. Naturally, given how vast the immortal realms were, the disciples of the heavenly talisman realm all had their own paths of cultivation. If they didn't accept the same mission, it wouldn't be easy for them to bump into each other. In addition, Qin Wendian discovered a unique point. Almost everyone here was at the immortal king realm. Junior brother pays my respects to senior brothers and sisters. Qin Wendian landed in a place with more people. There were some playing chess and some sipping tea. After Qin Wendian landed, he bowed slightly to show his respect. Oh, it's junior brother Qin. What's the matter? Someone turned his gaze over and smiled when he saw Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian glanced at one of them. He didn't know this senior brother, but this person directly referred to him as junior brother Qin. Clearly, this person was acquainted with him. Senior brother, have you met me before? Qin Wendian curiously asked. You are so famous, it's normal to see you in the crowd. Everyone, this little fellow is none other than the junior brother Qin Wendian who caused such a huge commotion in the eastern regions. That immortal king laughed. Many people turned their gazes to Qin Wendian, surveying him, causing Qin Wendian to feel somewhat awkward. That fellow by Wuya recommended you here, right? That fellow's cultivation is extremely high and his judgment is also good. Someone spoke with envy. Yeah, back then when I first entered the heavenly talisman realm, that brat by Wuya was still playing around somewhere. Who would have thought that he would grow more and more powerful as time passed? Right now, he has yet to exit the Tiandao Sacred Academy. I wonder how he is doing. Junior brother Qin, when are you going to marry the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom? Someone asked with a smile. Although Qin Wendian's current cultivation base was slightly lower, these people also understood that for someone who could cause such chaos in the eastern regions when he was only at the Immortal Foundation realm, his future accomplishments would definitely be limitless. In addition, just the people who were related to him were already extremely outstanding. Emperor Qianbian, Chongqing the Great, immortal emperors of the Namhuang clan. Naturally, those who understood this were mainly those who were active in the eastern regions. The immortal realms were simply too vast. People from the other regions weren't so clear about the situation there. Junior is also worried about this matter. Right now, many major powers are eyeing me and it's hard for me to move about in the eastern regions. Since I'm at the threshold of the Immortal King realm, I wish to head to the northern regions to temper myself. I wonder which senior brother can bring me there? Qin Wentian spoke. You wish to head to the northern regions? A senior brother glanced at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian nodded. I do know of a good place. There's a place in the northern regions that is very suitable for you to cultivate. That Immortal King spoke. Are you talking about the Dark North Immortal Mountain? Someone beside him laughed. That's right, the Dark North Immortal Mountain is also known as the Immortal Mountain of Laws. Many people from the other regions of the Immortal Realms didn't mind traversing vast distances just to attempt to break through to the Immortal King realm. That's indeed a good place. Also, given junior brother Qin's talent, there naturally wouldn't be any problems for you to head there. Since you came from the northern regions, why don't you bring junior brother Qin there? An older Immortal King's senior brother spoke. The person who spoke earlier nodded his head and stared at Qin Wentian. Shall we head there now? If senior brother has no problems, we can head there now. Qin Wentian nodded. I'm fine, let's go. That senior brother stood up. After that, his silhouette flashed as Qin Wentian followed after him. At the same time, he didn't forget to clasp his hands to everyone. Many thanks, senior brothers. Everyone stared at the departing back of Qin Wentian as they laughed. This little fellow was truly humble. If he continued on this path, he might even be stronger than Bai Wuya in the future. The two of them came to a certain location in the Heavenly Talisman realm. That senior brother at the Immortal King realm formed a spatial gate, allowing them to see the situation outside. That place seemed to be a cultivation ground, with fiery energy circulating around it. Before this, I was in closed-door seclusion there. After that, I directly came to the Heavenly Talisman realm. Let me bring you out first before we return. The Immortal King spoke as he led Qin Wentian out, directly traversing through space and arriving at the cultivation ground. A terrifying heat instantly caused Qin Wentian to feel extremely unbearable. The Immortal King unleashed his law might, enveloping Qin Wentian. After that, he stretched out his palm, causing the fire law energy in this space to gradually dissipate. The law energy on the barrier of fire also gradually dissipated. There are people outside, but you should be able to handle them. I'll return first. The Immortal King waved his hand and left, directly sending Qin Wentian back to the northern regions of the Immortal Realms. Boom! At this moment, the fiery immortal wall ahead exploded as the law flames danced wildly. Qin Wentian turned his gaze outwards only to see that there were actually two groups of experts fighting each other. However, at this instant, all of them stopped and turned their gazes to Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian still didn't understand what was going on. A cold voice drifted over. Who are you? What treasures did you obtain in this treasure ground? The person who spoke was a young man. His gaze was sharp and exuded a pressure. His cultivation base was at the 7th level of Immortal Foundation as he coldly stared at Qin Wentian. Treasure ground? Treasure? Qin Wentian silently mused. After that, he understood. This senior brother of his was a powerful Immortal King. Even though this place was a place for closed-door seclusion, it became a place where these people couldn't enter. They all mistook this place for a treasure ground and thought that there were treasures within, forming a fiery wall. Qin Wentian's gaze was cold as he glanced at that young man. He didn't reply. On the other side, an old man's eyes gleamed brightly as he surveyed Qin Wentian's body. After that, he probed, "Is Senior the one cultivating here?" This old man was extremely cautious. He couldn't sense Qin Wentian's aura, but for some senior characters, if they intentionally concealed their auras, they would be like Qin Wentian right now. Hence, he had some suspicions. Qin Wentian also calmly glanced at him and didn't say anything. An old man referring to him as senior, although it was a little comical, it was still considered appropriate in terms of cultivation base. Even if he wasn't an Immortal King, his cultivation base was still higher compared to the 7th level of Immortal Foundation. The eyes of the young man flickered when he heard the old man's words. He was filled with suspicions. Although Qin Wentian's aura was extraordinary, he was so young and didn't have the demeanor of an immortal king. Most probably he was here to steal treasures. Sir, who are you? If you obtained any treasures, please hand them over. The young man spoke again, but this time around, his tone was a little warmer. Most probably, he was trying to probe Qin Wenyin. Scram. Qin Wenyin glanced over as he spoke to the young man. A moment later, the young man's expression froze, becoming extremely unsightly to behold. What arrogant words! Could it be that this person was truly a senior who cultivated here? The young man felt a little tempted. He wanted to test Qin Wentian's cultivation base, but he didn't dare to act recklessly. If Qin Wenyan was truly an immortal king, they would simply be courting death if they acted against him. You can't hear me? Qin Wenyan frowned as a faint killing intent gushed forth. The expression of the young man changed again. He cast a deep glance at Qin Wenyan and clasped his hands. Farewell. After speaking, he waved his hand and brought his men away. His decisiveness was truly decisive. Clearly, he didn't dare to take the risk of probing Qin Wenyan. Junior is from the Wan clan of Skyflame City. I pay my respects to Senior. The old man clasped his hands to Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan nodded lightly, exuding an unfathomable aura as he asked, I'm currently cultivating here. How far is Skyflame City from the Dark North Immortal Mountain? In the Heavenly Talisman realm, the only information he obtained was about the Dark North Immortal Mountain. He naturally wanted to go there to take a look. The eyes of the old man gleamed with sharpness. The Dark North Immortal Mountain? Seems like an expert who just broke through to the Immortal King realm wanted to use the Dark North Immortal Mountain to stabilize his foundation. Senior, the Dark North Immortal Mountain is a sacred ground of our Hokage Sengoku Kingdom and is located in the Dark North Royal City. Skyflame City is one of the cities of our dynasty, and now is the time for the Dark North Immortal Mountain to be opened. There are people from my Wan clan who want to head there as well. Why don't Senior follow me back to the clan and we can head there together? The old man invited Qin Wenyan. Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. In the Tiandao Sacred Academy, Li Yufeng's girlfriend Baiming Nongyue should be a princess of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. In addition, she also has an incomparably beautiful elder sister, Princess Kitamura. Right now, she should be the same as senior brother Bai Wuya, still cultivating in the Tiandao Sacred Academy. Other than knowing these two, Qin Wenyan knew nothing about the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. In fact, he didn't even know anything about the Dark North Immortal Mountain he wanted to head to. Right now, he truly needed to gather some information. Okay, I will head there with you. Qin Wenyan calmly spoke. It would be my honor. That old man happily spoke. Senior, please. Qin Wenyan stepped out with the old man beside him. He then asked, Senior, did you intentionally come to the Dark North Immortal Mountain to cultivate? Did you rush here from the other regions? I came from the eastern regions. Qin Wenyan nodded. Given how far the distance is, didn't Senior spend a very long time? The old man continued probing. Qin Wenyan calmly replied, occasionally asking some questions. Very soon he found out that Skyflame City could be considered a mid-tier city in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Immortal King-ranked powers were as rare as the feathers of birds. An immortal king would be able to summon the wind and rain in this city. The Wan clan that this old man was from was precisely an immortal king-ranked clan, one of the strongest clans in Skyflame City. Also, the person who fought against them earlier was someone from another immortal king-ranked power. These two powers were rivals. After finding out about this, Qin Wenyan relaxed his guard. In this city, there shouldn't be anyone who could threaten his life. At the same time, Qin Wenyan also found out that the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom governed the world. The Dark North Immortal Mountain was a sacred cultivation ground directly governed by the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. It was extremely suitable for those who had just broken through to the Immortal King realm. However, not everyone could casually enter and cultivate there. One had to obtain the permission of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. When the Immortal Mountain opened up, The geniuses of the various powers in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom would all head to the royal capital for a pilgrimage. Chapter 1329. Where did you say that senior is? A young man inclined his head and stared at the old man beside Qin Wenin. His eyes gleamed with sharpness, as though they contained blazing flames within. He was clad in long robes and exuded an imposing aura. Evidently, his status was extraordinary and his cultivation base was at the peak of immortal foundation. He doesn't seem to be someone from your Wan clan. What has this got to do with you, Wan Miaoyan? The young man from the Yen clan didn't want to lose face in front of his lover. He coldly replied, "Maybe it's because he misunderstood you as an immortal king earlier. In addition, it's not safe for you to leave now. The Yen clan and my Wan clan have a feud. Although Yen Ling is mediocre, there are a few powerful characters in the Yen clan who can stand shoulder to shoulder with Miaoyan and Yiming. If you leave now, the Yen clan might take revenge on you." The eyes of the old man flashed. He stared at Qin Wenin. "Senior, you aren't an immortal king?" "Old sir, I'm indeed cultivating there. How can I lie to you? You refer to me as senior. I'm at the 9th level of immortal foundation and you are at the 7th level. As for the people from the Yen clan, their cultivation bases are inferior to mine, yet they dared to look at me coldly. Don't tell me I shouldn't reprimand them? As for heading to the Dark North Immortal Mountain, I naturally wish to do so since I'm at the peak of immortal foundation. What's wrong with that?" Qin Wendian retorted, causing the old man to be speechless. Although it was only a step away, 9th level immortal foundation experts could be seen everywhere in Skyflame City. Immortal kings were considered peak characters. Regardless of the Wan clan or the Yen clan, there were many 9th level immortal foundation guards. The old man was stunned. He had no way to rebut. There was nothing wrong with Qin Wentian's words. Was everything really just a misunderstanding? Stepping forward, Qin Wentian stood on the city walls and stared down. There were actually many demonic beasts there, all raised by the Wan clan. Some of these demonic beasts were extremely tyrannical and powerful. "Farewell then." Yen Ling coldly glanced at Qin Wentian before leading his men away. Qin Wentian glanced at the young woman. She had a sexy figure and was beautiful with a hint of pride on her face. Her cultivation base was at the 7th level of immortal foundation, the same as the old man. Although her seniority was lower, her cultivation base wasn't low. Clearly, her talent wasn't bad. Just as they were talking, an aura suddenly rushed over from afar. Everyone turned around and the old man's expression changed slightly. It was someone from the Yen clan. They actually dared to come here. Take care of each other? Qin Wendian shrugged and said, "It doesn't seem to be very popular." As one of the strongest powers in Skyflame City, the Wan clan was extremely imposing. Qin Wendian entered together with the old man. Before they arrived, the old man had already sent someone to inform the Wan clan. Hence, when Qin Wendian arrived, many people personally came to welcome him. The group of people in the lead all had extraordinary auras. When they saw Qin Wendian, all of them had curious gazes. The people of the Wan clan all had strange looks in their eyes. A beautiful woman with cold arrogance coldly spoke. "Third uncle, have you become muddle-headed? Maybe this man is intentionally lying to you, wanting to join our Wan clan." The Wan clan of Skyflame City was one of the strongest powers in this city. They had an immortal king as their protector, and to ordinary cities, an immortal king was already considered very powerful. Naturally, it was a different story for the capital cities of immortal empires and dynasties. Those places were rich in resources and were naturally the gathering place for experts. "I heard that you also wish to head to the Dark North Immortal Mountain?" A cold voice rang out. Qin Wendian turned his gaze over only to see Wan Yao's beautiful eyes staring at him. There was a hint of pride in her eyes. When he thought of this, he bitterly smiled. "Since Brother Qin is already here, why don't you come to the Wan clan as a guest?" "Old sir, Junior will bid my farewell." Qin Wendian clasped his hands. On the way here, he managed to gather some information. It didn't matter if he went to the Wan clan or not. Before this, he didn't dare to take the risk after being berated by Qin Wenyan. But he was unwilling to be humiliated like this. Hence, he came to the vicinity of the Wan clan in advance and ordered his men to monitor the situation. And as expected, when he discovered that Qin Wenyan wasn't an immortal king, he immediately brought his men over. These people were none other than the experts of the Yen clan who fought against the old man earlier. The young man in the lead coldly stared at Qin Wenyan. "Little bastard, you actually dared to lie to me. Stop flattering yourself." Another woman smiled. "Third uncle, how do you plan to settle him?" Wan Miaoyan calmly glanced at him before turning and departing, ignoring him. She told Yen Ling to scram simply because Yen Ling wanted to kidnap Qin Wenyan. It wasn't because of Qin Wenyan himself. "Lie to you?" Qin Wenyan smiled and shook his head. "When have I ever said that I'm an immortal king?" The young man from the Yen clan glanced at the woman who spoke. She was clad in a windbreaker and had a face as cold as frost, exuding an extraordinary aura. The old man was more honest. He was ranked third in the Wan clan, and right now, the Wan clan was managed by his two elder brothers. "Many thanks." Qin Wenyan smiled and nodded to Wan Miaoyan. "Since I invited you here, I naturally have to be polite. How can I let you leave?" The old man shook his head, pulling Qin Wenyan along. "Don't worry about it, come to my residence as a guest for a few days." After entering the Wan clan, Qin Wenyan naturally gathered more information about the Dark North Immortal Mountain. It was said that not long later, the Wan clan would send people to escort Wan Miaoyan and Wan Yiming to the Dark North Immortal Kingdom. After Qin Wenyan learned of this, he felt at ease and decided to stay in the Wan clan. "Who are those people who spoke earlier? They seem to have high statuses in the Wan clan." Qin Wenyan asked. Qin Wenyan initially wanted to teach that young man a lesson, but who would have thought that before he could do anything, that young man had already fled with his tail between his legs. His gaze turned to Wan Miaoyan. This young woman had a peak-level Immortal Foundation cultivation base and was one of the two strongest here. The other was the young man who spoke first when he arrived. "Hand this bastard to me and I will leave immediately." The young man pointed to Qin Wenyan. Upon seeing this man calling him a bastard, Qin Wenyan's eyes gleamed with sharpness. Just when he was about to step out, a clear voice rang out. "You want to ask for people from my Wan clan? Are you qualified?" "I haven't thought it through yet." The old man smiled. "Yao, do you have any suggestions?" "Just nice. Isn't Miaoyan lacking a guard to feed the demonic beast? She can be a substitute." A young man at the side laughed. After that, expressions of interest appeared on the faces of everyone. Before this, Wan Miaoyan's guard died under the hands of a demonic beast. If Qin Wenyan went to feed the demonic beast, only death would await him. "Brother Qin, I won't refer to you as senior. You can just call me by my name, Wan Zhuqin." The old man spoke to Qin Wenyan. "Let's enter." After that, he clasped his hands to everyone. "Everyone, I'm sorry. I've misunderstood." Qin Wenyan smiled and nodded lightly. "This man is an immortal king expert. How can he be so young?" These people silently mused. Qin Wenyan was speechless when he saw this scene. The old man beside him was truly acting on his own. He followed him to the Wan clan because he wanted to gather some information and was preparing to head to the Dark North Immortal Mountain. However, the old man caused such a huge commotion, it was hard for him to explain things clearly. This step was like ascending to the heavens. "Nope." Wan Yao coldly spoke. She glanced at Qin Wenyan before turning to leave as well. The other experts also left one after another, thinking that there was really an immortal king here. However, it was just a 9th-level Immortal Foundation character. There was no need for them to pay any attention to him. Wan Miaoyan. The young man from the Yen clan had an unsightly expression on his face. This young woman who spoke was one of the most outstanding geniuses in the Wan clan, possessing both beauty and talent. In Skyflame City, it was unknown how many people coveted her beauty, fantasizing about marrying her. The young man from the Yen clan also had such fantasies before. However, he knew that it wasn't realistic. Immortal king? Qin Wenyan pretended not to know that the old man had misunderstood. After that, the expression of the old man changed. Sir, have you been lying to me before this? Qin Wenyan followed the serving girl who came to summon him. They came to a bastion of beasts and there were many young experts of the Wan clan here. They stood together and stared at the vast land below. Qin Wenyan walked behind them but none of them turned around, as though they had completely ignored his existence. People from the Yen clan actually dare to behave atrociously in the territory of my Wan clan? The old man coldly spoke. There were now 2 other old men beside the young man. Their eyes gleamed brightly and their cultivation bases were extremely high. Both of them were at the 9th level of Immortal Foundation. Since old sir is so kind, I, Qin, shall accept. Qin Wenyan smiled and nodded, following Wan Zhuqing into the Wan clan. Could it be that old sir is so respectful to me because you misunderstood that I'm an immortal king? Qin Wenyan smiled and shook his head, as though he didn't know anything at all. He clasped his hands. If this matter caused a misunderstanding and old sir doesn't welcome me, I, Qin, will take my leave. This one is. The old man pointed to Qin Wenyan. The expression of the old man stiffened. I asked you if you are cultivating there and you nodded your head. I addressed you as senior and you refused to back down. Also, you directly told the people from the Yen clan to scram and you came here wanting to head to the Dark North Immortal Mountain. Are all these not counted? The person who asked me at the start was Wan Yiming, the son of my eldest brother. As for the woman who told Yen Yen to leave earlier, it was Wan Miaoyan, the daughter of my second brother. The 2 of them are the 2 with the best talent in our Wan clan and the Wan clan has high hopes for them, hoping that they would be able to enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain to cultivate. Although I have some misunderstandings with you, I can see that Brother Qin's aura is extraordinary and since he wants to head to the Dark North Immortal Mountain, I believe that he wouldn't be an ordinary character as well. Hence, I asked Brother Qin to stay behind. What are you all doing? I only came to the Wan clan to take a walk. Why is there a need to make such a scene? Qin Wenyan stared at the old man. Is there some misunderstanding? Yenling, you are truly shameless. Given your status, do you have the qualifications to question Sister Miaoyan? Scram. The woman who addressed the old man as third uncle earlier spoke, causing Yenling's expression to turn even more unsightly. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.